it
Welcome
going?
to the stream.
Welcome to the stream. Well, it's Friday night. It's a crazy
That's right.
night.
It's Jack and Pho here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Back at it again.
There's some exciting
It's time
stuff.
for a Chubby Bunny challenge.
We definitely got on the Chubby
We
Bunny.
might become Chubby Bunnies after this challenge.
We might.
Got some marshmallows. Fat-free and nut-free.
That's right.
Can't have fat or nuts.
Hey, what's up, John? How's it going?
Hey, John.
Hey.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome, everybody. Good to see you here. Coming to hang with us, especially with what's going on. I know that the Libertarian Party people are all hanging out in Reno right now. We were watching a little bit of that because it's really funny to watch.
Right.
That's
There's like 200 people watching.
I thought it was 300 plus.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Might have jumped since I saw it.
Yeah. So it's quite interesting. We might
Point of
cut to
privilege.
that later. Yeah.
Point of privilege.
Point of privilege. That came out quite a bit.
Gosh. All right.
But yeah, we're gonna be chilling out here. We're gonna be doing a Chubby Buddy game. So what that means is that in support of the campaign, for every $20 more that we get support on the Voluntaryist campaign, which if you haven't checked that out, I'm gonna just put this here in the banner real quick so you can see. It's at Indiegogo. It's also in the top banner bar over there. I'm gonna just pull up the campaign right now so that you can join with us to look at this.
So every $20 contribution, we're going to do we Chubby Bunny, as it says up there.
Right.
We're going to do a Chubby Bunny challenge, which means we're going to compete and see who can fit more marshmallows in their mouth. These are regular size and they're kosher. Great.
Right.
I'm not going to swallow. I'm not going to swallow. I'm going to spit it out.
That's a good idea. That's
much.
good for being safe. And it should be noted here, something very exciting is that we are actually, I'm so zoomed in. We are actually fully funded. So we've hit goal. Woo!
Yay. We're not even halfway through.
And we're not even
awesome.
halfway through time-wise. So we actually hit 100% of goals. So what that means is that, of course, everything that I've listened to the campaign in terms of what's going on with the person, stuff like that, that's definitely happening. And not only that, if you've already supported, you're already getting a bonus sticker for us having hit goal. Now, on top of that, there's some stretch goals that are being added onto that. So, in addition to the 15K bonus sticker for hitting goal, at 16K, there'll be a new character sheet art print, plus unlocking the Origins 5 cover variant. 17K, there's a new character game card, and then a Origins 4 cover variant. 18K, a Voluntaryist team art print, plus the Origins 3 cover variant. Again, if you have the print comic or higher,
so the different
you can join
variants.
in. Exactly. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to talk about some current events too, as already saw there in the comments. Some people were noticing that one of the topics we're looking to talk about specifically is with gun rights. We're going to actually talk about some of that too.
Hey, LS420.
Hey,
welcome.
how's it going, Matt?
Hey, Matthew.
What's up, LS420? Good to see you.
Hey, Trent.
Hey. Oh, hey, what's up, Trent? Yeah, I know. We're competing against the vice chair statements. Yes, we're competing against them, but we might cut to them too. So we might have a little fun watching them. So, double dipping if things get boring over on that side. It's at least keeping things entertaining. Hey, what's up, Storky?
Hi, welcome.
So, hey, what's up, MZ? Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, we're checking in the comments right now. So if you're on YouTube, we definitely see it. Facebook, if it's a public page, we see it. If it's a personal profile or Twitter, I think we don't see those comments. So if you're on Twitter, just go to the YouTube. If you're on a Facebook personal page, just go to the YouTube, Philosopher YouTube. That's where you can,
And we'll definitely see your comments there on YouTube.
Exactly. That's where you can definitely see it. And we actually are able to respond possibly. So he says, should we be here on YouTube or Facebook? So yeah, so YouTube is the best, obviously. It's the most direct thing. So.
Hey, Trent.
Hey, Trent. Yeah, so he's dual dipping right now. He's dual dipping.
Wow.
Dual dipping. So we're gonna be in addition to this challenge, having some fun, raise support. We're also gonna be just discussing the gun rights issues and stuff like that as relates to Facebook fact checking. So why don't you talk a little bit about that while I pull up that image here?
Sure. Before we start, did you get a snapshot of the campaign so we just know where we're at? Somebody
yes.
does that. Okay.
Yes. So
I don't have that number.
So yeah, so the campaign currently is at 15,113, 50 backers.
Okay, 50
so we'll know
backers.
50. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
All
yeah,
right,
I mean, really,
great.
really awesome. So we're gonna be talking about some fun stuff too. So we'll keep things entertaining both on the goofy side, right? With up here, as you can see, we got the marshmallows. Oh yeah, nut free, fat free. That's right. this is a no nut zone. Actually, I can eat nuts,
It smells really good.
but you know,
I personally want some.
I kind of
I'm
want
not
it
gonna eat it.
in my mouth. That's true. I do want to eat it. So we're gonna be looking here at the Facebook fact check that took place with us because it's kind of ridiculous,
right? And yeah, I posted this to both Instagram and Facebook. Of course, it's all owned by the same company now, Fedbook. And as much as they want to be called Meta, I like Fedbook. I like that name. And yeah, so it just says mass shooters go to where they think no one can shoot back. You know, general assertion, and a call to end gun-free zones. But look, it's actually, I guess it's partly false. Let's see what they check. These independent fact checkers. Let's see why they flagged it.
So yeah, so just quick context here. Again, this post itself was going very viral. It still is.
Yeah.
And for good reasons. Because it's just speaking the truth and you know, stating the obvious of what is the most, you know, obvious thing that you can imagine, which is that someone who wants to do harm to a lot of people typically doesn't want any resistance, right?
And empirically, most mass shootings happen at gun-free zones. Okay, most of them happen where people are disarmed, or there's a precedent where they expect that most people will be unarmed. So.
Right. And again, this doesn't take like a giant leap of logic to figure out. It's very obvious that cowards who want to do a lot of harm are thinking about how they can do the most harm without being stopped. I mean, that's just bare bones, you know, obvious thinking. So the good news is that this is not just conjecture. There is actually plenty of empirical evidence for this. But before we get to the empirical evidence, we're actually going to pull up what that fact check article was.
Oh, I don't think you grabbed it all.
And
you didn't grab the whole URL.
Oh, I didn't. I goofed. I did not grab the whole URL.
You can just control click.
That's a good point. I'm so glad that you're so technically savvy. I should just
such boomers, man. Where am I?
Right.
Kidding.
So and guess what? This fact check.
Oh, isn't it funny? Right. Just notice. Sorry, before you go.
Yeah, of course.
They go partly false, right? So anyone going on Fedbook will go and if they don't click on the article, they're like, oh, it's partly false. But when you go straight here, it says half true.
Right. So exactly. It says, yeah, partly false. So it's just the whole framing thing. It gets really interesting. And as you note here, does this fact check even actually have anything to do with what you posted in terms of like the context?
No, this is someone from 2017, some dude I have no affiliation with, saying most of these mass shootings take place in areas where you're not allowed to have a concealed weapons permit. That is so specific. I did not say anything about that.
Right.
It's a general statement about mass shootings happen where they think most people are disarmed. Nothing to do with the state, selling you back your rights, concealed weapons permit. No, it's specifically about ending gun-free zones.
Right, exactly. Like, so the whole point here is that it's not about whether or not the concealed weapons permit is the core issue, right? You don't need a permit for your rights. So even that framing is itself kind of its own ridiculousness. Yep. You shouldn't need a permit for your rights. If you have a permit, then you're having to ask permission. Then that means it's not a right. So again, the same old spinning lion. Their stuff is really what's the falsity here, the falsehood. So. Yep. This person, Amy Sherman, says, do most shootings happen in gun-free zones? So again, at least the reframing here is going to change from what they started with. But as you'll see, they're going to do a lot of, you could say, sophistic maneuvers and fallacious things to try to reframe it. So they say here, in the wake of mass shootings at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, and at the Fort Lauderdale airport, Florida lawmakers are expected to act on a series of bills to expand where people can carry their guns. So again, this is not even addressing what it is, that you posted. This is like somebody else's fact check, and, now they're doing, applying it to you. So the bills would allow concealed carry permit holders to carry their guns in places such as airports, schools, college campuses, police stations, polling places. Florida leads the nation concealed carry permits with 1.7 million permits. And that's a pretty obvious reason why, because Florida, sadly, in 1987, their constitution was rewritten. Actually, it was 86, between 86 and 87, and they turned the right to bear arms into a privilege with a concealed carry permit, which means everybody who wants to conceal carry has to get this permit. That's why there's so many of those permits.
And it's, I mean, although it is shall issue, which means if you do apply, right, you will get it. Isn't that true?
By and large, I mean, there's some restricting qualifiers. Like obviously, if you had a felony record, they're not going to give it to you. But yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be that way. But and there's also reciprocity with Florida, so out-of-staters can get the permit in most places. So there's a lot of people who want to get a Florida concealed carry.
Such a scam. They get so much money every time.
It is a big scam.
1.7 million. If you multiply that by how much each permit costs.
Oh yeah, it's a big business. I mean, Department of Agriculture.
Business.
It's all
that licensing scheme.
So Republican House Speaker Richard Corcoran supports expanding the list of where permit holders can carry the guns, possibly a way to avert future attacks. So does, as you can see, this is an aged fact check because it still says President Donald Trump, even though he's
this is so aged.
Right. So they not only is it a fact check, it's an ancient fact check that they just like regurgitate. We don't got one for this. We'll just slap some old one on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So who promised to get rid of gun-free zones, schools, military bases?
This reminds me of our song, Bad Post.
Yeah.
No apology. Okay, we got to play that after.
We definitely play later. So most of these mass shootings take place in arenas where you're not allowed to have a concealed weapons permit. He told CBS 4 Miami's Jim I don't even know how to say his name. Defeedy? I don't know. Defeed. By arenas, Cochran seemed to be referring to place in general.
He's Jim
Yeah, right. That makes sense. Defed. I'll take that. So place in general, not sports arenas. So Cochran argued that people commit mass shootings, said they choose certain areas because they knew nobody had guns. That raises an interesting question, but it's separate from the focus of this fact check, whether most mass shootings happen in places where concealed carry permits don't apply or gun-free zones. So
Cochran, is that not a conflation where concealed carry permits don't apply? Like, why is it specifically about concealed carry?
Because they're statists and they have no freaking clue about what the words they use. These are just a bunch of idiots at PolitiFact. They have no idea of law and nuance. They have no idea. They're just idiots. All right. And I'm not saying that as like an ad hominem. No, they're really stupid. Like, I mean, this is just a factual thing. They are dumb. You know what I mean? The evidence of their stupidity is their writing. So Cochran was citing research for a pro-gun advocate who reached that conclusion, but anti-gun advocates have argued that data isn't so clear-cut. They see other patterns of statistical evidence. Overall, the evidence remains murky and depends on how researchers define gun-free or mass shooting. Oh, so they're already admitting here that they're in a tough spot because, there's debate over how you define it. And, oh, no. There could be a fact pattern where you're right, where what you're saying is right, but we can't let that happen.
This is so ridiculous too, because I have to pause here.
Pause.
All of these things, when they put on a fact check label, you have no ability to appeal it. So they're literally asserting and saying this is true. That's what they're saying. They're making a truth assertion. They're not giving you a chance to appeal, because sometimes they do. If they give you a chance to appeal, in my opinion, it means they recognize it was an algorithm that probably flagged you. And because it's an algorithm, it can be prone to error, right? So that's why they give you a chance to appeal. In these cases, when they don't give you a chance to appeal, in my opinion, it's pretty clearly a political thing. It's pure politics. They do not want anyone to dispute it. They just want all other users and hope, the sheep on the social media are just like, partly false, dismiss. That's their goal. They don't expect most sheep to read this long line and like discern whether PolitiFact is telling the truth or not, right? They're not going to do that. But anyway,
they'll read the title.
It's very frustrating to be on a social media like this, where they just like assert, this is false, your post, but they don't even give you a chance to debate it.
Yep.
And what they like put on is usually unrelated to what I said. So
yeah, that's what we're seeing right here. Exactly. This is literally slapped on as a rehash from an old article. It's not even directly responsive to what they slapped it on. So varying definitions of mass shootings. Here we go. Already they're having to deal with the problem that there's varying definitions, but you're going to see very soon that they're going to do a little bit of data cherry picking. So Cochran's spokesman said he was referring to the numbers of mass public shootings compiled by economist John Lott, who has his doctorate, and he's the president of the pro-gun crime prevention research center. So I'm getting tongue-tied here. I just know a bit about Lott and his research and work and stuff like that. So again, he's an intelligent guy. He's got a lot of publications. He's taught at many major universities. Mm-hmm. So Lott's research has been quoted by those who support expanding gun rights, but academics often attack his research as flawed. His book, More Guns, Less Crime, has been a subject of ongoing academic policy debates as well as numerous fact checks. Oh, wait. So this guy, his research on guns and crime has been subject to fact checks. Oh, you mean like what you're doing right now? So in other words, the criteria for judging the credibility is the very act of the person making the criticism on their own, laurels. They're saying, well, if we fact check you, then there's something wrong with you, right? Oh, ooh.
You can look at their language, right? So look at Lott. If you scroll up again, please. So it says John Lott, president of the program, pro-gun crime prevention. He has a doctorate, right? You said?
Yeah, he is.
So for him, he's just an economist, right? He's the president of a pro-gun thing, right? But then when you read the next sentence, it says Lott's research has been quoted by those who support expanded gun rights, but academics, this label, right? Academics, that adds more importance to a word without actual substance.
He's literally an academic.
Academics often attack his research. Right. So they refuse to say that he himself is an academic.
Yes.
Literally right. So you just got to look for yourself and see what words are people choosing. It's very deliberate here, and the bias is clear.
Oh, exactly. And actually,
they just want to convince people using sophistry. They're not really using reason, evidence, and clear language.
No, 100%. Actually, I do want to pull it up because I think that was a great catch that you just had
appeal
there.
To authority. Oh, academics often attack. Well, what kind of academics? There's many academics that are stupid.
I get many
or
things
who are
wrong.
Irrational, who are unprincipled, or who are corrupt.
Yeah.
So what academics are you talking about? But no, they're not going to go into that. It's just an appeal to authority. They just hope that some sheep reading this, like, oh, see, academics attach his research. Oh, Lott, he's just another pro-gun person, right? Just labels, sophistry, not actually talking about his argument. So let's just keep going. See how they try to.
Well, and real quick, I just want to pull up here just because I think it is important just to talk about specifically John Lott, because again, they did try to couch it as academics versus him. So Dr. John R. Lott, an economist and world-recognized expert on guns and crime. During the Trump administration, he served as the senior advisor for research and statistics in the Office of Justice Programs and then the Office of Legal Policy in the U.S. Department of Justice. He's held research or teaching positions at various academic institutions, including the University of Chicago, Yale University, Wharton School of University of Pennsylvania. These are Ivy League schools. Besides Chicago, Stanford University, UCLA, Rice, and was a chief economist at the United States Sentencing Commission during 1988 to 1989. So again, he has his PhD in economics from UCLA, which is a very lefty place, but it's in the mainstream. It's a highly credentialed school. It's a very competitive up there public university. So the idea that he's not an academic,
omitting him as an academic on purpose, right?
It's so sophisticated. These people are downright evil again, and they're stupid, but they're also evil. So it's both, as Tom Wood said just recently. So his book argues that crime data over multiple years shows reductions in crime in states that have right to carry laws. Now, again, I can agree there that correlation is not causation. I can agree there all day. Like, correlation should not be used as causation. You got to look at all the variables and everything going on. But we do have evidence about the nature of mass shootings themselves and where they take place. That's empirical, at least. So, but many other academics have said his work doesn't account for the factors that influence crime rates and that he manipulates the data to reach his conclusions. Oh, you think that's bad? We're going to cover some stuff later. So far,
just appeal to authority. I don't know if you noticed.
No specifics.
Several paragraphs already. No substance, just appeal to authority. Academics said he's wrong. Academics said he's wrong. Just assertions, right?
Because I think they're just CYAing that. Because honestly, if they try to actually say something specific, I wonder if they'd worry that they get a defamation lawsuit or something like that. Because again, there's nothing specific about what's wrong. I don't know.
It's a really long article. So, do they eventually get into it?
You'll find out. That's the beauty of unraveling mysteries. So... but many other academics have said his work doesn't account for other factors that influence crime rates. Again, mimics the data. So the National Academies of Sciences concluded in 2005 that no link between right to carry laws and changes in crime is apparent in the raw data.
Okay, that's just right. Random organization conclusion. In the raw data, assertion. Right.
Right, and again, they this is one of those things I really like to point out, that they're going to move the goalpost tons of times. Right. So remember, the original goalpost was concealed carry and mass shootings. Then they switched it to just be a gun-free zone and mass shootings. And now the third move goalpost, right, from where they started, is no link to right to carry laws and changes in crime. Crime generally, not mass shootings.
They're not even focused.
If you didn't think about it, if you didn't think about their sophisticated language and how they've moved the goalpost multiple times at this point, you'd be like, oh, okay, you're right, right? But no one's thinking this who just, kind of has a tepid IQ. They're just like, huh, okay, they're wrong, right?
Either it's IQ or they're just indoctrinated, right? You can
And
have
there's
a high
indoctrination.
IQ and you can be indoctrinated.
Well, that's true too. I mean, obviously, it's
ignorance.
one or the other, but most certainly they're appealing to both lowbrow people and very statist, indoctrinated, brainwashed people. So, or people who just can't use critical thinking skills. So before we delve into the numbers compiled by lot, we will explain why it's complicated to make sweeping claims of mass shootings in gun-free zones. So again, they keep on emphasizing how it's complicated. So how are they making a truth claim
if
themselves if it's complicated? Yeah. FBI spokesman
Right.
Stephen Fisher pointed to a 2012 law setting the threshold for mass killing as 3 or more people killed. But another report by the Federal Congressional Research Service says the mass murder has been defined generally as a threshold of 4 more deaths. And actually, that is the most official government measure, like FBI crime statistics. 4 or more, when they're doing that stuff, that's the pretty, bread and butter standard, is 4 or more deaths is the mass shooting standard. So Lott points to the types of shootings the FBI included in the study of active shooter situations, but that study clearly says it isn't covering all mass shootings. Lott said he included mass shootings in which 4 more were killed that occurred in public, and he excluded those that occurred within the commission of other crimes, such as armed robbery. Well, what they don't really want you to think about is that what's the issue with mass shooting? Are people really worried about mass shootings when someone's just like doing a gang war thing somewhere remote, or they're just killing their family members in their home? Or is it are people worried about mass shootings when in grocery store or at the movie theater or the sports stadium, right? People are not worried about remote events. They're worried that, someone's going to come and, just start randomly shooting them. So, and this is where it's going to get real juicy. So every town for gun safety found that among 133 mass shootings between January 2009 and 2015.
Oh, wait, did you skip that part?
Oh, okay, sorry. Lots of data showed that between 1998 and 2015, about 3.8% of mass shootings occurred in areas where guns were allowed. So every town for gun safety. Now, the fact they're about to cite them is going to be embarrassing because we're going to pull up something after this that's going to, really get you chuckling. But every town for gun safety found that among 133 mass shootings between January 2009 and July 2015, 70% took place in private homes, while 13% took place in gun-free zones where carrying of concealed guns are prohibited. Another 17% took place in public areas where the carrying of firearms is allowed. So again, even here, they just looked at 133. They don't even say what every town defines it as, right? Where's the definition? Where's every town's definition of mass shooting? They don't list it.
Right.
They just say, here it is. Oh, there's different definitions, but what is it?
Right. What if they're doing 6 or more?
Right. What if they're doing
know.
2? I don't. They don't show it here. You wouldn't know. So, and they're just asserting that, without questioning. They're not saying, oh, well, every town used this. We need to question their methodology. Like, no, every town is a sufficient counter source.
Yeah, another appeal to authority.
And every town is actually very terrible. We're gonna look at that later to show how bad they are and
they
how
fact
relying
check
them is terrible.
Dr. Lott, but they don't fact check anyone else,
right?
That they can use as an authority that matches their narrative,
right? So Daniel Webster, the director of the John Hopkins. That's really funny because Daniel Webster, like Webster's Dictionary, the director of the John Hopkins Center for Gun Policy Research, was a very leftist organization who has disagreed with Lott's findings, pointed to research by Louis Claravas. I'm assuming that's what it is. A professor at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. Oh, another gun grabbing state. In Claravas's book, Rampage Nation, he said that Lott has used too loose a concept of gun-free zones. Too loose. Claravas disagrees with gun advocates who define a gun-free zone as simply an area that bans private citizens from carrying a gun. Oh, really?
Wow.
So now you're going to sit there and say,
wow, this is
that, right.
So sophisticated.
So sophisticated.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what a gun-free zone means, buddy. Obviously, it means that people can't carry privately.
No,
it doesn't mean that cops can't,
insane.
They carry everywhere.
There's another appeal authority. Hey guys, some random dude that you don't care about, right? Not part of the. We're not, we're not saying like what the government says is true, but it's just like they themselves, are going against the definition put out by the FBI,
Right.
So it's just, this is hilarious saying a gun-free zone. That's precisely what it is, though. I don't care if you disagree, but that's precisely what people are meaning when they say gun-free zone. It's specifically where private citizens are banned from carrying a gun and where carrying a gun becomes a privilege instead of a right, a fundamental right. Right? Property rights. That's all it is. So we can keep going, but that's the first glaring thing that I find here is they're just like, oh, we disagree with the definition.
Right. So it's one of those things. It's like, well, our experts of defining are the more right ones. And the idea that, if you just are saying private person can't carry. Well, that's not a gun-free zone. Like it's so insane.
It says, for example, lot characterized Fort Hood in Washington Navy Yard, military sites,
right,
attacked by gunmen, as gun-free despite the presence of armed security.
Right, and just real quick on that, let's just not forget that in that case, Fort Hood, that person was actually military, so they kind of understood and knew where to go and what to do because they knew the landscape of the area. They didn't go to the first thing like, hey, let me just brandish this and see what happens, right?
No, that wasn't a random actor. That was someone who knew the area.
So it was an insider.
Exactly, right.
Oh my goodness. Well, all right, before we do this real quick, Snorky has come in, Trent has come in, and he said,
Snorky.
Let's see what this chubby bunny is.
Oh, okay.
So we do have.
Thanks, Trent. Oh, we're at 51 now.
So we got to pop open the old.
Okay. So let me tell the rules, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. So chubby bunny means basically we have these marshmallows, and it's a competition between Jack and I to see who can fit more marshmallows in their mouth. Right. You can feel free to just make a guess who's going to win, who's going to be able to cram more marshmallows. I have a guess. But it'll be fun.
I think it's it's going to be a lot of fun because with each one we progressively go through more. So like the first support, we each do one and then we say chubby bunny. And then the second support, then we have to do 2 marshmallows each saying chubby bunny. And so with each support, we could get progressively more and more marshmallows in our mouth.
Right.
So.
Okay, wait. I do want to know. Can we get a pulse? How many people think I can fit more marshmallows in my mouth than Jack?
We'll
Anyone?
Take a look.
Please put it down. Just put Pho. And then if you think Jack can put more, just put Jack. I mean, I'm just curious.
Right. And we're going to go ahead and open these up. And this is just one, so it's not that big of a deal. But now he at least gets to see what we're doing.
Mercenary thinks Pho can do it. Okay.
All right. You ready?
Pho. Jack. Okay, Snorky.
This is just
Jack.
one, so this is just the baby says whatever.
Okay,
ready, right? Chubby bunny.
Chubby bunny.
You don't have to eat it. I mean,
I forgot that part of the rule. I'm sorry.
It tastes so good. It's up to you if you want.
Okay, wait.
What?
I feel like I don't know the rules. So I forgot. So you're supposed to put it in your mouth and then you say chubby bunny?
And then you say chubby bunny. Yeah.
Oh, so that's it, just one?
Yeah, so the first round is just one marshmallow, and then with the
it.
next support, we have to do 2 each, and then with the next support, we have to do 3 each. So we have to stuff it. We're not going to do it till we die. Like we're not going to kill ourselves, right? Yeah, no. But we will see how far we can go.
Okay, well, thanks, Trey.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Breaking the ice.
Oh no, I apologize. People thought I was just about to stuff it all in my mouth.
No, you got to say chubby bunny.
I guess I don't know how to play chubby bunny.
Nope. But you're about to learn tonight what the chubby bunny is all about. So are you about to do it right then?
Huh? What?
Oh, you're about to do the chubby bunny thing again?
What chubby bunny thing?
Oh, putting one in your mouth and saying chubby bunny?
Oh, I did already.
Oh.
I did.
Oh, okay.
I meant I got the challenge wrong. I thought it was just about putting as much in your mouth as possible.
Well, we will get to that, but it will be,
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. So back to your regular gun grabbing program. Yeah, anti-gun grabber program. So it says there's an obvious logical problem with such conceptualization. How could a place be a gun-free zone if guns are present?
Oh
my God.
See, so this is a sophistry, right?
Sophist.
They debunk your claim saying it's false, but they're purposefully choosing different definitions. That is so fallacious. In order to debunk it, you would say, hey, this person made a claim. Hey, this was their definition of mass shootings when they made the claim. This was their definition of gun-free zones when they made the claim. And then here's how they're wrong. But this is not what they're doing. They're saying, hey, these people said this, but academics disagree with their definitions. What? That's not debunking someone's claim. That's just saying you don't agree with their definitions. Right. That's not substantive as to whether they made a truth statement or not. First, you have to actually agree on definitions.
Yep.
So if all you're focused on is, oh, people disagree with him on definitions, do you realize they're not actually debunking his assertion at all, or mine, that we need to end gun-free zones, that most mass shootings happen in places where people are not allowed the right to keep and bear arms?
Right.
Yeah. I'm curious if they actually get there, if they're going to keep focusing on semantics.
Oh, yeah. We got some word salads to go through. So again, he said he calls gun restricting zones as places where civilians can't carry guns, yet armed security is routinely present, such as military facilities or certain college campuses. That's not the point of why someone would choose that target. They choose to go where they believe that people are not going to be able to defend themselves.
Right, most people.
That's the idea.
They may even scope and be like, okay, I know that armed security gets off at this time, or I know that there's only 3 of them or 1 dude. Right.
They don't want to go where there's ambiguity with like, oh my gosh,
could the
any
teachers
person
be armed?
could be armed
Could students be armed? Like,
right. So, and that even happened, I think it was the Buffalo shooter, right, who intentionally targeted minorities. Was that
Buffalo? Yeah, New York, right?
Yeah. Like, even his manifesto, he said, I intentionally chose New York because I knew that people would not be armed. I mean, it's such nonsense. He's probably a patsy though. Anyway, so yeah, that's another story. So using these categories,
FBI fools, FBI plot.
Yeah, okay, basically again. Using these categories, Clairvaux examined 111 shootings since 1966, in which 6 or more people have been killed in each incident, regardless of whether it occurred in a public or private location or if it was in the commission of the crime. He found 13 took place in gun-free zones and 5 took place in gun-restricting zones.
Okay, see this sophistry?
Right.
Wow. What's like saying gun-free zones is somehow different from gun-restricting zones?
Well, not only does he make up his own category distinction here,
and changing the definition of mass shootings to be 6 or more. That's so much higher than even the 3 or 4 said by the federal government. What?
Literally, FBI they go by 4
This
more.
is why it's so important to
they make it more narrow.
Have definitions cleared up, right? So they changed the definitions. They're like, oh, people disagree with his definition. Now look at our facts where you can't even do a 1-to-1 comparison with Dr. Lott's assertion, right?
Right.
You haven't disproven anything.
Right.
All you did was change the definition to make the numbers look more favorable to your narrative. That's it. That's not debunking anything.
It's, and in fact, I would say it's very specifically this fallacy, the Texas sharpshooter. You cherry picked a data cluster to suit your argument or found a pattern to fit a presumption. So again, and this is the specific fallacy that they did here. They specifically tried to reframe it to a higher body count that virtually nobody in the, mainstream, general fact finding of looking at crime statistics, especially after coming to the FBI, which is, where people go to look up at different ways that people are killed in various instrumentalities and homicide or whatever. Mm-hmm. They don't use the 6 or more definition.
They go there for official records.
Right. They don't even do that.
They don't even do 6 or more.
Right. So this guy is literally trying to make
and
the barrier to entry
he's excluding
harder.
Anything where it was 5 people or more killed, 4 or more.
Right.
And again, when it comes to FBI, like I would think 3 or more would constitute a mass shooting, right? So even saying 4 is already excluding some cases. So you always have to get into the definitions.
And I think that Lott makes the better argument here. If we're going to be talking about what is it that people think of when they think of mass shooting, they're not they're not thinking, oh, someone is just offing themselves and their family within their own home. Again, tragic, horrible, but they're not, that's not what they're worried about. No one's thinking, oh, okay. No, it's like, okay, if someone else dies in their home, that's horrible, but that's not.
Right, but they see that as personal as opposed to, you're in public, that's so random. Right. That's scary, right?
Yeah, you're just randomly getting, shot up by, someone in a mall or someone, in a park, whatever. That's not the same. That is a very appropriate distinction.
Yeah.
So okay, so since Clairvaux includes mass shootings in private residences during the commission of the crime, that means that he counts several additional incidents that aren't factored in by Lott. For example, as a mass shooting in a gun-allowing zone, Clairvaux counts a gunfight between 2 rival biker gangs in Waco, Texas in 2015 that left 9 people dead. So that's an example of a shooting that wasn't in a gun-free zone that is omitted from Lott's calculations. Now, again, that's debatable. One could say, does the gang thing, is that taking place in a more public arena, or is that just, in their own turf kind of thing? But it's not going to upend it when you actually factor in the reality of getting rid of that moved goalpost of 6 persons or more. So the 2 also disagree on how to characterize whether guns were allowed at certain locations. Lott said the shooting at Umpqua Community College in Oregon was in a gun-free zone and points to a school policy that bans possession of firearms, except as expressly authorized by law or college regulations. Umpqua Community College spokeswoman Anne Marie Levis previously told the fact that the school's gun-free policy didn't apply to students with a valid permit. UC was never designated as a gun-free zone by any signage or policy, said. Umpqua Community College has complied with state law by allowing students with concealed carry license to bring firearms on campus. So again, maybe that's true. We'd have to look into that more in depth to actually, know whether that was the case at the time. I'd be very curious to see whether or not that specific instance is true. But we already know for a fact that regardless of this one anecdote that they want to put together, right? They want you to focus on the anecdotes. They've not once put in hard data about what specifically that difference is, that gap is between qualifying 4 shootings, mass shooting versus 6, right? They did all that talk to say, here's the differences, but where's the difference in the number counts? Why are they not showing the data that you would have, the picture of what the changes would be if you do it this way versus that way? Because I don't think they really would like that outcome. I don't think that they would like the honest outcome that they actually use, what the FBI uses, and that's pretty standard across the board in criminal research. They would be very unhappy. So it says, our ruling, Congress said most of these mass shootings take place in arenas where you're not allowed to have a concealed weapons permit. Cochrane cites research by an advocate for gun rights who used a strict definition, to define places where guns are not allowed. In reality, there are places where concealed weapons are permitted, places where police or security officers openly carry weapons, and places where concealed weapons are not permitted. Additionally, there are different ways to define mass shootings. Bringing
of permits. Right. Hey, by the way, that means you don't have a right to carry. If you need to get a permit, that means there's no right to carry.
Right. And again, I wouldn't even give them that. I would say you could have that definition in terms of, if you have a CWP, then you can carry. Okay, fine. I'll take that definition all day. But the issue here that they don't want you to look at is how they changed and moved the goalposts 3 times in terms of defining what actually constitutes, the situation of guns versus crime or guns versus mass shootings, reframing that argument, and the hard numbers of what constitutes a mass shooting 4 to 6 and what that difference is. They don't go through it. They don't say, here's the data, here's the comparisons. And it's going to get worse because their citation to some of the people here is actually going to end up being wrong. They haven't updated it. So, all right. So again, we found the advocates for more gun control analyzed the data and reached different conclusions. Our assessment is that it's difficult to draw broad conclusions about the motivations of perpetrators of mass shootings or whether they are influenced by gun restrictions. We rate Cochrane's statement as half true. So what do you mean half true?
They never debunked
They redefined the definition.
Gosh,
that's not half true.
Insane.
That's not half true.
All they did in this article, basically to summarize, the only thing substantive in this article was, hey, people have different definitions when they make assertions about mass shootings. But they never debunked his. They didn't go with his definition. They didn't say, okay, he defined it as this. He defined gun-free zones and mass shootings as this. So let's stick to that definition and see if we can debunk it, what he said, right? They didn't do that.
Right.
And plus, this is from 2017. They flagged my post as partly false, but they're not even directly responding to what I said. They're not fact-checking me specifically. It's just an algorithm. It's like, gun-free zones, mass shootings, put on this label. Right. This is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Makes it such an unenjoyable platform.
I agree. It's really frustrating. And so now what we're going to do real quick here is, how back in PolitiFact they cited to every town for gun safety. So every town is so bad and unreliable, and they make up their definitions, so skewed that, and get this, even NPR called them out. Even NPR said the school shootings that weren't. Whoa. Right? So NPR. So again, did PolitiFact update their article to say, you know what? We relied on every town's number to try to debunk this. And turns out every town lied. No, they did not update this, of course.
Nope. Still using a 2017 article
to fact check
and
people.
Citing people that have already been debunked.
Yes.
Still to fact check people. How many? 5 years later? This is insane. It's absolutely insane.
What was 5 years later?
When they wrote the article in 2017.
Oh,
using that same article 5 years later.
Sorry. I thought you were talking about this article, not now.
Oh, no.
Brain fart. Okay. So
this is 4 years ago.
Now we're covering how NPR themselves debunked every town's own numbers by themselves going to fact check, we're not talking fact check, write an article, calling up the schools and the data and actually seeing, hey, did this actually happen? So this is nuts, right? It's that bad. Every town was that bad that even NPR said, hey, your data is bogus.
I'm pretty sure all of every town for gun safety's posts on Instagram and Fedbook, none of them are flagged for false information. None.
Which ones? The
for their on their page, like
every town?
yeah.
I don't know. I can't say because I haven't looked. I should look. It'd be fun to go see if they get flagged. But I don't typically look at their garbage. So unless I'm looking at like their claims, I'm looking specifically at like some campaign they're doing. So. But okay, so it says, how many times per year does a gun go off in American school? We should know, but we don't. This spring, the U.S. Department of Education reported that in the 2015 to 2016 school year, nearly 240 schools reported at least one incident involving a school-related shooting. The number is far higher than most other estimates. But NPR reached out to every one of those schools repeatedly over the course of 3 months, and found that more than two-thirds of these reported incidents never happened. Okay,
that's most of it. That's not even half.
That's most of it.
That's the majority.
So it's crazy.
That's a strong majority.
NPR themselves literally went through. It's like, let's just check to see if this is actually right, and it's literally not true. So Child Trends, a nonpartisan nonprofit research organization, assisted NPR in analyzing data from the government civil rights data collection. We were able to confirm just 11 reported incidents either directly with schools or through media reports. In 161 cases, schools or districts attested that no incident took place or couldn't confirm one. In at least 4 cases, we found something did happen, but it didn't meet the government's parameters for a shooting. About a quarter of schools didn't respond to our inquiries. When we're talking about such an important and rare event, this amount of data error could be very meaningful. You think 2/3 wrong? That could be pretty big.
Yeah, if your population is less than 200, right? 20 things is a huge percentage.
Huge. Says Deborah Temkin, as researcher and program director at Child Trends. So again, in the 2015-2016 school year, the federal government reported there were 235 school shootings, but 161 schools or districts reported to NPR that no school shootings had occurred. 37 happened in Cleveland. The reported number may have been intended for the previous item in the data collection. So apparently there was something that may have been in the wrong cycle of the reporting cycle. 26 in Ventura County, California, the school number district risks reported the numbers. So again, they found things that didn't happen, things that were meant for different years, cycle of counting, and misreported numbers, dude.
Wow.
So only 11 were independently confirmed.
Wait, if you go back up, what does that mean here? So like those Cleveland school districts and that county school district in California, does that mean that they're corrupt or just like incompetent? Because it says they may have been intended for the previous. Okay. Yeah. It's really interesting that it's just kind of two major cities that had a lot of the reports.
And again, the main reason why this is such an interesting report and why it's so valuable is that this is coming from a very statist, some will say a center left. I think it's very leftist source. Okay. Yeah. So if even your statist leftist source is saying, hey, you got your data wrong on the number of mass shootings and school shootings.
That means it was so bad they had to cover it.
It was so bad that even they were saying, something's not adding up.
Right.
Not good. So the remaining 59 could be confirmed or disconfirmed by NPR. So again, there's a bunch that, they just couldn't figure it out. But again, just the fact they had so many that were like, this is outright wrong, or it's miscategorized, it's in the wrong cycle. That's pretty bad. So the Education Department asked for comment on a reporting, noted that it relies on school districts to provide accurate information. The survey responses says that it will update some of these data later this fall, but officials added the department has no plans to republish the existing publication. Oh, okay, yeah. So they're just keeping up the bad numbers. This confusion comes at a time when the need for clear data on school violence has never been more pressing. Students around the country are heading back to school this month under a cloud of fear stemming from the most recent mass shooting in Parkland, Florida. So again, this is written back then.
Oh, look. Thanks, Jesse. Oh, Jesse says, sorry, I can't stay. Have some family emergency. Okay, sorry to hear. I hope it's not serious. We'll catch the entire show in a day. Be safe and go everywhere armed. Trust me, we do. Stay strapped. The world has gone batshit crazy. Well, thanks, I'm glad, Jesse, you haven't gone batshit crazy. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Can we do a Chubby? But I know it's not on the campaign. You just want to do the campaign?
Just the campaign, yeah. Just because I want to stick to the rules.
Oh, okay.
So again, only on the campaign we do the Chubby Buddy. But thank you so much, Jesse. Seriously, thank you.
I thought you're a libertarian. You don't like rules.
No, this case we got to do the rules. So
just kidding. I want property rights. That's the rule.
The rules, property rights. So it says at least 53 new school safety laws are passed in states in 2018. Of course, many of those red flag laws are. Districts are spending millions of dollars.
School safety laws, totally covering up the nature
of
government violence.
So I just want to skip down to important stuff. So our reporting highlights just how difficult it can be to track school-related shootings, how researchers, educators, and policymakers are hindered by a lack of data. Lack of data.
Okay, that's their bias showing in NPR.
Lack of data.
That's where NPR. What about the FBI? What are you talking about? The FBI has so much data published every year.
Yeah, it ain't no lack of data. That is a misrepresentation or lying. That's not lack. That's people are literally lying. Like this, you know. So just want to see here real quick to skip down to if there's because I wanted to do this specific thing with every town because every town had relied on that. Okay, so hold on, let me just pull this up real quick because again that data was something that you know. Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. Wow. Here. So this is tying into this is again because it's such an old article. They didn't update it with other stuff. So again, you already have that the government data is wrong with the Department of Education, right. And then it says a gun control group counted 18 school shootings in 2018. That's now disputed. Here's why. So this is from CNBC again. CNBC is not exactly known as being the bastion of gun rights advocacy
or liberty.
More liberty. But even CNBC had to admit that there's some problems. So it says the fatal mass shooting at Florida high school marked the 18th school shooting 2018. Again, this is Parkland, so it's old news, but important to look at. But by Thursday, Every Town for Gun Safety, an organization that keeps detailed data, on incidents of gun violence, had revised the original number down to 17 school shootings. Why the numbers change? It all comes down
to... And we're debunking them because so many statist organizations cite Every Town for Gun Safety as if they're some authority.
Right, and they're still using their...
Just like we saw in that fact check article.
Exactly.
That was from 2017. That had nothing to do with my post.
Right. So it says, why the numbers change, it all comes down to how every town and advocacy group that supports stricter gun laws defines school shootings. According to Every Town, anytime a firearm discharges a live round inside a school building or on a school campus or grounds, it counts as a school shooting, regardless of whether or not the shooting results in injury or death. For example...
Exactly the definition.
Right.
So, such a loose definition.
Such a loose. So, for example, a third grader at Harmony Learning Center in Maplewood, Minnesota, pressed the trigger on a school liaison officer's gun on February 5th. The weapon discharge hit the floor. No injuries reported. Again, that's not a shooting. That's a kid having an accident.
Shooting. That's a literal accident.
But according to Every Town, that's a school shooting. Wow. So every time gunfire breaks out in school grounds, could shatter child's sense that they're safe in their school, their community, even though it's literally. Oh my God.
See, look at the sophistry. Officer. They're like trying to cover up how they're like including it and calling it a school shooting.
Right. So I want to especially point out some of these sophistic ones. So here's some of the examples. Where is the? Okay, so this is the one I really wanted to focus on because this is the one that they cited Every Town in this old article, and this is the type of stuff Every Town puts in their shooting data.
Yeah, and when they say 18, that's a one is even a lot out of 18. That's
proportionally.
You're talking about small numbers, so any one thing that you can count as a shooting will make your number look that much bigger. Oh, absolutely. It's actually on the scale. So really it says the post points to one incident in particular. On January 3rd, a 31-year-old man committed suicide outside of an elementary school in Michigan. Every Town counted the suicide as a school shooting. The elementary school, however, had been closed since June, 7 months. Wow.
No children or teachers are present at the closed school. So this dude, he literally commits suicide in the parking lot of a school on the weekend when it's closed. School's been closed. Nobody's
Even
there.
If it was open, it still shouldn't be considered a school shooting because it's a suicide. There's no one he's targeting but himself. That's right. Absolutely.
And it says, after the Post published its piece, Every Town removed the January 3rd suicide from its tally of school shootings. So again, they published this piece countering them. They're like, oh, we'll remove it. But that fact check that was on your page was referencing an article that was still literally citing to the statistics by Every Town from that period before they updated it. So you're being fact checked by a 5-year-old article on your 2022 post with data that's been debunked the year after in 2018, which was removed. This is how crazy these fact checkers are, people. They're insane.
Yep. I hope, and I'm seeing it. Most people are just ignoring the fact check. They're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Just gonna independently think for myself and not be swayed by whether some random, totally biased organization fact checks this post or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just, they're just a bunch of fraud hucksters. And I think you said it pretty well, where if its core element is political, then what is it really? The fact check then. If it's about political, you said was that with Democrats, stuff like that. Well,
I'm saying like basically if you get a fact check or if you get a flag or whatever on your post and you don't get a chance to appeal, then I'm pretty sure you can assert that it is a political move.
Yes.
The fact that they censored you. It's a political censorship. That's what it is. It's not really based in reason evidence. As you saw, 2017 outdated articles citing people and organizations that have been debunked. It's ridiculous. That's purely political. So I've just had a lot of experience where if they flag my post, usually there's a chance to appeal. Like they'll flag like, oh, this comment was flagged as bullying or harassment. Do you want to appeal? Right? That means that they are recognizing that there was a chance that they could be wrong. In this case, if they don't give you a chance to appeal, they're basically saying, this is what it should be. This is just the truth. You cannot even debate it. And that's just what it is.
Right.
Judge, put the hammer down. Like, that's just the verdict. That's what they're saying there. And that's when you know it's purely political. It's not about truth. It's not about reason, evidence if you can't even appeal. Right.
Right.
So that's just something I learned from having my posts or comments be flagged for bullying or harassment or false or whatever, and seeing the differences of when they actually give me a chance to appeal or not. So
yeah, I mean, it's just so abundantly
I think it's clear. It's pure politics.
It's pure politics. And
which party in the government now, political party that really wants to ban guns? The Democrats.
Right.
What's going on right now? Oh, it's election season.
Yeah, no, it's wild to me that they will have you have to fill out special forms because if you do a political post and you try to boost it or do an ad for it, oh, well, that's electioneering stuff. We got to be careful of that. But they can put their fact checks on anything that's truly pure political. You can't remove it, you can't peel it. Oh, but that's not political.
That's not electioneering?
Right, that's not electioneering, like manipulation or this, that. Oh, okay.
Disgusting.
Yeah, so it's really...
So everyone just ignore it. Make your own opinion.
Exactly.
Think for yourself. Ignore these. Clearly, PolitiFact is not independent fact checkers, okay? They're not.
Clearly
They're not unbiased. They're clearly left. They're clearly Democrat Party leading. So actually, we have another example. That's another good example of how these fact checks, when you don't get the chance of appeal, is purely political.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So real quick, just as a quick reminder here, we are still doing the Chubby Buddy Challenge. We already did our first one where we said Chubby Buddy. We are up to 51 backers. So if we do 20 or more, again, a support of $20 or more on the Voluntaryist campaign, and we're already at 100% of funding. So that means that you're already on a successful project. So
you will get your comics.
Yeah, well, you would get your comics no matter what, but I'm just saying the absolutely everything we were hoping to do, which is the new issue, Origin 6, 24 pages, the remasters on issues 1 and 2, that is, boom, happening. It's on, baby. So you're supporting a campaign and a project that is going to be successful and beautiful, wonderful. And I was going to say, never seen any of these pages before. Again, I should actually bring this over so we can really see the big screen. There we go. So, it's got some cool stuff here, as you can see. There's some cool Easter eggs. Yeah, right? Yeah, you can see that up close, right?
And the lockdown and the shutdown. Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yeah. So do you see comic series with stuff like that? Now, again, it's not like the comic itself is not preachy. These the future verse kind of prototype covers I've done were meant to just be like inspirational, like for the future. The actual story is not like,
it's not related to the chapter here.
Right. So it's more just art pieces for the cover, and those even too are going to get remastered with with this campaign, hopefully with the bonus stuff. But it's it's just kind of a way to inspire people that the entertainment world doesn't have to be all statist.
Right.
And
if you have a business, you can also get a advertisement in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's a past advertisement. You might recognize some of that good stuff.
Oh, I love that. I am the Remnant. Yeah, he got a full page ad.
Yeah.
Center fold page ad. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Vowed to know more. I love it.
Yeah, that was a super cool ad. So, yeah, the actual comic itself, I think it's overall it's very beautiful. The quality that Kablam makes is really high end. This is not some like, just printed over in China mass produced.
We
where
didn't
it's like
print it in
garbage.
our in our basement or
Right.
anything. Like this is a real comic
It's
production
made
company.
actually in America, and of course it costs more, but the quality is really up there in terms of the actual print materials. Like the colors really jump out, the story really jumps out, and
I also got an ad.
Oh yeah, you got the ad on that back one.
You see my Chubby.
Chubby.
The coasters. It's awesome.
It's super cool just to have been able to do this for so long, and to with this is the 10-year anniversary. So I've been doing this stuff for 10 years, work my way up from a very humble beginning, having to make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, do better.
You've had a fan base that has, some of them have been with you for that whole 10 years.
Yes.
It's pretty incredible. So
it is pretty incredible, actually. It's been very honoring to have people who've been supporting with the beginning and go through my growing pains, because in the first half the 10 years I was like experimenting, trying different concepts and stuff like that, and then eventually I got stuff really good together, and then I started the Origins series, and then once I did the Origins canon, everything was overall really good. And the past 4 campaigns, over 100% funding, beautiful comics that obviously everybody got their perks and really enjoyed them, got a lot of great feedback. So it's crazy to think that now at 10 years with less than half, or actually, sorry, less than half, more than half time left, we've still been able to break new records and hit 100% of funding and even go over that, and are now on stretch goals. So it's very encouraging to see that.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, and I have to mention also for this campaign, I'll be doing another cosplay, as I have been doing.
Yes.
Ever since I met you and started helping you on these campaigns.
Thanks for being a great editor.
My pleasure. There I am. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no.
With the cheongsam.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, I mean,
but so this time I'm going to be cosplaying Lumbertarian.
Yep.
It's a gender bender role, because Lumbertarian, it's a dude, but I'm gonna be the girl version of him. And I'm excited. I have suspenders, I have like voluntarist symbols on them. My hair is gonna be black and yellow for the shoot, so if you want to check that out, that's also a perk as well, the cosplay perk there.
Yeah, I mean, so it's also something you've been doing for a long time in terms of different cosplay perks. Like, she's been very generous to be a part of this and kind of show a good face and actually try to experiment with different costumes and characters and stuff like that. So I really appreciate that.
It's been fun too. Yeah, I would say, I mean, I've always enjoyed anime, so cosplaying is just one of those things that's just kind of fun to do. And it's really my only chance to do it, because I don't cosplay otherwise. Like, the only thing I've ever cosplayed actually is Voluntaryist, the comic series.
Hey, that's a good thing to do.
I mean, if you don't count Halloween, right, which I wouldn't, I don't cosplay otherwise. So, if you want to get that, check it out. Some of you have also gotten the cosplay perk every time. So thanks for that. It's really cool. Yeah, Hal says the artwork is cool. It reminds you of the Lantern Corps. Oh, is that like the Green Lantern?
Green Lantern, yeah. Okay, so little. I mean, I could see some similarities, maybe just the chest symbol thing, but the Voluntarist suit is definitely unique in overall style. So let me see
here. Yeah. So if you're tired of race swapping of past beloved characters just because you're not going to have that here. If you're tired of heroes that actually destroy the city and people's livelihoods, and then the next day the city is just fine and bustling again and has like no continuity with destruction and the cost of destruction, come to this comic and check it out.
Yeah, it's super cool. And actually, on that note, because you just mentioned property destruction, Travis here said Eric July, and I saw this, which I love what Eric July is doing right now. I'm like, honestly, I'm so thankful for Eric's work. He is paving the way on, amazing levels of getting people to realize there is an exit from all the SJW status nonsense that's being put out by Disney, by Marvel and Star Wars and all this stuff.
And part of it is because he is regularly covering the SJW takeover of Marvel and DC.
Yes. Yeah. So
So
thank you, Eric, for doing that.
Yeah.
Because seriously, you're doing amazing work.
I actually
getting
didn't even
people to
know
realize
that
what's going on.
that
Yeah.
the recent Batman, which movie allowed looting
So-
because not insurance.
So it was a comic book. So, and it was just crazy that like they had Batman be like, oh, people are just destroying property. Oh, well, that's okay. They have, they have insurance. Like Batman wouldn't stop people who were burglars destroying things, which is literally like a normal thing for Batman for pretty much all time.
That is so
they're rewriting it to
rude.
be, commie or,
Wow.
socialist.
And
kinda thing,
just like putting it on the person, the property owner, like, oh, the property owner doesn't care. Who cares about them? They have insurance. What? Do you know how like just because you have insurance doesn't mean like your stuff that's been looted or taken from you or destroyed is going to be right in your hands like immediately. It takes time. It takes a process. First, you have to file paperwork and stuff. It's just such a belittling of property rights.
Yeah, it is. It's very
downplaying of the
disrespectful on
importance
people's
of it.
side.
Yeah. And also just saying, oh, the looters, they're fine. Right. Oh, it's okay to loot if the person you're looting won't miss it. Right. That's the implication there. They're trying to say, oh, if they have an insurance policy, they won't miss it. It's ridiculous.
Right. No, yeah. They're downplaying the pain suffered by people who have to deal with the law. And some things that are destroyed, you can't just replace. Like, oh, it's insurance. Yeah, but there's some things that are unique to someone.
Right. Like what if it's a photo album or what if it's a computer that's unique that you had a lot of time with? What if it's a car that you had a lot of memories with? Yeah. Right. Heirlooms. There's so many things.
So it's really crazy.
Yeah. And then it's a clear agenda, right? To just erode property rights and make people think like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's not something that's scarce, that resources are just unlimited, And you can see the villains of the volunteers. These are called the statists.
Yeah. So this is the statist characters. So this is some of the bad guys from the series.
They look really bad, especially that guy in the middle. Oh, actually, no. The guy that looks the scariest is probably the third to the right. Is that the third to to the right?
Oh,
no, I'm sorry, fourth
Leviathan
to the right.
Or?
Yeah, like fourth to the right. Yeah, the Leviathan.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Like he literally looks
Leviathan,
like just Satan incarnate.
Yeah, he's the main antagonist. This right here, if you're wondering, like, what's this like symbol? So that's Kaiser Kim. So it's Kim Jong Un. He was actually secretly able to be kept alive with Nazi era technology. So that's a funny one there. So yeah, I mean the universe, stuff like that. Obviously, with having done this for 10 years, there's a lot that we've been developing over those years. So I wanted to just spend some time here sharing that with you guys too, just sharing some of that history and going over some of the artwork and the imagery as we wait for the next Chubby Bunny event. So I'm gonna pull up here a little bit of the the issue 1 pencils. So this is from way back in the day. So like the first pencils of Voluntaryist were with the original artist for the series, Rob Dumo. So, he did a great job in terms of the artwork. His lettering was so-so. And I think one of my learning lessons over the years was that you want to divide up the tasks. You want
to find the specialist of each.
Yeah, right? You want to find the specialties. Yeah. He said he could do the letters. It was not up to where to par. So his primary artwork was good though. And his coloring was decent. But I came to realize it'd be better to, divide those up over time. That's just, a lesson learned over time.
Right. And finding the best talent for each, like the best inker, the best letterer, the best colorist.
Exactly. So, even that first issue was kind of like a Futureverse thing, describing what Voluntaryist could be like, just dealing with protesters, basically shouting out against stuff going on with the Fed and with the police state and stuff like that. And then, of course, Voluntaryist, takes on some people. This, again, there's an uncolored page, just an ink page. So a little bit of background history there.
Someone said, Morose.
That's
right. In fact, wasn't that an issue? The Voluntaryist versus the State of Zombies. Yeah.
That was a fun. We'll get to that too. So Voluntaryist number 2. So I wasn't successful on the second issue. Like it was way underfunded. This is about 9 years ago. So I, didn't hit anywhere where I wanted to be on goal. So I just tried to do the most I could with it. So I created a bunch of vignettes of characters. So it's kind of just like this idea of like helping to develop the universe a bit, just show off some of the characters here. As you can see, Voluntaryist Leviathan there had a little bit of the old black and yellow flag and the Fed stuff. You got the TSA there and SWAT.
She's so ready.
Yeah.
To touch you. You see that?
I know, right? She's got the gloves.
She's like, I'm ready.
She's like, I'm gonna go upside your.
I bet. Okay, there's gonna be one guy who's gonna look at that and be like, I'd let her touch me. Like those memes about the ATF agent.
Somebody will. Some perverse
so
person will be like, yes, the TSA is touching me. This is the best.
It's hilarious.
I love it.
I love it. That's so funny.
But yeah, so in that issue, we did like character vignettes of different characters. This is Agora. So it was just kind of like ways to introduce.
I thought it was Agora. No.
Oh.
Isn't it Agora?
Agora. I don't know why I said Agora because
I was like, wait.
All right, so
because you're thinking the word
Agorist Nexus in the moment. I was like just saying that, and then I was like, oh, sorry, I'm a little tired. We worked out.
Yeah, when it's not the root word is Agora.
Agora, yes.
The market.
I'm like, I don't even know my own universe anymore.
That is such a beautiful word, by the way. Agora, Greek.
But her character, I think, is beautiful in terms of the artwork and design. I like the outfit.
And any girls who like to cosplay, which a lot of girls over the years have definitely hit you up. They're like, I want to cosplay Agora. No one's like, can I cosplay Jack? No, nobody. But like Agora, her,
right.
And Cat. Yeah.
And this character here, Voluntaria, I always put in little Easter eggs. So if you read through my comic series, there's always stuff in there that makes you wonder, okay, what's real, what's fake? So if you look closely, there's this guy who is having his door kicked down for a plant because he was smoking green. But if you look at his shoulder, he has a Voluntarist symbol. And the reason they were going after him was, just because he wanted to treat his cancer with a little bit of natural herb. So.
Right.
And then I had this is a real throwback.
There's a lot of iconic scenes here that I like. Like you could just take a screenshot of that previous one and standalone, just showing like a very visceral depiction of what happens. Like some guy just trying to treat his cancer with a plant, and you have someone breaking down his door and kidnapping him, taking him out of his home. That's the kind of insanity that still goes on. Like as much as there's legalization of, for example, marijuana in many states and now mushrooms in like Oregon, there's still people around the United States that are in prison and still in prison for these victimless actions. It's really, really tragic. So, I just have to say, doing our best to try and like be a voice for the voiceless. Like these people don't have a platform to speak. So you just got to always remember them and remember who you're fighting for, that we're trying to save people and bring liberty for all,
Yeah. And a big part of that is just getting people to see it in the culture, inspiring people with art, connecting them with resource organizations that are fighting things, legally, or thinking of ways to like exit outside of the status paradigm and stuff like that. So
can you imagine if the themes in your comic were actually in every single movie and every single mainstream comic? I mean, you probably have like a very libertarian world right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's
I do think politics is downstream from culture. People in government will see, okay, they're constantly studying what's the culture, right? What's the culture? What's going on? What's the big thing? And that's why you'll have even some Republicans start to be like, shall not be infringed, and be full on like 2A absolutists, because they see the writing on the wall. They see the culture is shifting. So that's partially why when I saw this comic, I was so passionate about it, because it's like, yes, great, bringing the message of liberty to yet another forum that is so oversaturated with status ideas, with this idea that, property rights don't matter. Everyone's just tax cattle for the state. It's just the state that can be benevolent actors. Only people in government can be benevolent. Nobody else. Right. Only the government is not prone to corruption, when the government, which is the biggest monopoly on violence in the world, is the one that actually, I forgot what I was saying.
The monopoly on violence, the government's the biggest one in the world that actually
has the biggest incentive for corruption. I'm sorry.
It's all good. Did you lose it midway?
I did. I just.
You're good. So
I just want a marshmallow.
I know. Could someone please let her get a marshmallow?
I want to put 2 marshmallows in my mouth and say "Chubby Buddy." I actually, that one marshmallow That was actually hard for me to say Chubby Bunny. Like, I'll do it again,
Please.
just so you know. Okay.
Please.
For one,
Marshmallow.
Chubby Bunny. It's really hard.
Even one's hard. We got to get 2. We got to get 3.
It's just one.
That's why. Join the campaign. Again, go on the campaign.
I don't want to
Just
eat
do a
you.
little 20er before the inflation hits on the campaign. And let's do this marshmallow thing while we go through this voluntarist history. So,
I don't want to eat it.
because she really
I
wants
don't
to
want
eat
to
it.
eat it.
She wants to eat it.
I'm saying I don't. But
Oh,
I'm
you
just
don't? Oh,
eating
you're
it.
going to eat it though. So,
All right, that's really good.
with some of the later issues, before I got to Origins, a lot of them were just kind of like vignette issues again. So it was more stuff that was, just
Like
kind
a
of
prototype of the
teasers and
universe?
prototypes, right? So like I made this one with the Voluntarists versus the there we go. The
That's who it is.
TSA, yeah.
We're going against the Volunteers versus the
Because I hate the TSA, so you know how that goes.
Hey, anyone else hate the TSA? Yo, I hate the TSA. I actually the TSA was like the last thing I could bear when it comes to going on like public flights. But with all the mask stuff, I'm like, no, I'm done. I know the mask thing is repealed, so maybe I'll go back.
Maybe, yeah, but it was terrible. We would not fly with that. And honestly, I just did this issue just so I can do this one panel because I hate the TSA agents. I actually wrote my doctoral thesis on it. That is on abolishing them.
Oh wait,
a
doctorate for your law degree.
Yeah.
Right?
So I just so badly wanted a scene where Voluntarists basically gives them the same treatment that they give all the passengers.
I didn't know that's the sound that's made when you reach for a dude's
Groin?
dangle dangles.
Yeah, the dangle.
I didn't know it's a foop.
It's a foop.
I didn't know.
It's the foop.
I always thought that was funny, like in comics and animes, like or mangas, how they tried to like use words to encapsulate a sound.
Right.
It's a challenge, Foop.
It can be a challenge. And foop. Then we had State of Zombies. That was.
Oh yeah, this is the Marauds. This is the Marauds issue,
Yeah.
I like to call it. But State of Zombies.
Because zombies were really big back in the day, especially if you were watching Walking Dead. So I was like, let's do a little zombies issue.
That was probably big around this time. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. The lettering could have been a little bit better. Again, I was still learning this stuff, and knowing what I know now, I took over lettering, so it's a little better. But it was still very fun to have those scenes, where it's like,
oh, this is Brooklyn, New York.
yeah, like who will build my border? We need more government. Right now, in the actual story, don't get me wrong on this. It's not like this kind of cheesy hokey. So this was more of
right. These are what we're covering is all the single issues.
These are just the
proof
past,
of concepts of the universe.
and some was just funny stuff that I wanted to do to help promote the series, like to insiders. So
right, and you can see it's not like related to the previous issue. For
right.
example.
Exactly. So it's something that was just done for fun. And now, obviously, the Origin series is much more serious, high quality, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was fun. That was its own excitement when we were able to finally start the Origin series, which is finally making the decision that every issue from now on is going to follow a canon chronological order, which is really cool. And now you're really starting to have the story from start to finish. So every issue we produce from now on will definitely have continuity from the previous one. And with Origins, we're at number 6.
Yes.
So the past 5 issues have all been continuous. So in fact, there's a perk bundle if you wanted to get either the single issues 1 through 6. So you can get, would you pass me a comic?
Yeah. Comic? That's
so
that's getting remastered too. So that's Origins 1. That's
cover.
No, the whole comic.
Oh, the whole comic.
The entire issue one's getting remastered.
So all what you see here, the art remastered.
Yes. Yeah, the whole thing.
Remastered.
Because in those days, I had a different primary artist because I was working through another company.
Right.
And then things were not good with them. So I've worked directly with artists since that time, and it's been much better. It's been much better working directly with them, and everything's good, and everything's got quality control and consistency. So we're just going to take the first 2 issues. And we're going to remaster them with the same artist on those, so that Origins 1 through 6, they'll have the same primary artist, colors, and of course we're doing lettering. So
awesome.
It's going to be super cool.
Another
and we already hit
double
goal, so it's
page
happening. It's not a question. We hit goal, so that's happening.
Yeah. So if you haven't ever checked out the Origin series, you could get the single issues, but that's not offered in this campaign. If you are curious about these single issues, like saving Snowden, saving Assange versus the NSA
Yeah,
versus
you can't
the TSA.
you can't get them.
Oh, you can't get. They're not
No.
on your website anymore.
So some
okay.
of those have been discontinued. I intentionally, want to take them off because they're just Futureverse prototypes. They're rough drafts.
Well, then whoever has them is special edition.
Whoever
like
has them
me.
has a collector's item. The only thing that's left, I think I still have the NSA 1 and 2 up. Oh, I'm gonna pull those though too. So once Origins completes, that is the 6th issue. I'm shutting down the rest of the old issues. They won't be available in print
just
anymore.
Origins.
And it's just going to be Origins. So people are going to have rare editions, collector's editions if you still have it.
That's me. That's
So,
me.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say is,
what
I was going to say is, what I would recommend is if you've never gotten into it, you can actually get the Origins 1 through 6 in this campaign as a perk. So if you check it out, you'll be both supporting the creation of the 6 series, and you can also get yourself the comic. So you have the choice of either getting them as single issues, like your traditional comic, like each issue is its own separate comic, or you can get the trade paperback. That's the one I want. That one is where it's a continuous. You'll have the 1 through 6 in one single paperback. So that's going to be really cool. And personally, that's the one I'm going to get, and I'm going to make you sign it for free.
That's right. Yeah, you're going to force me to sign.
Point of privilege. Point of privilege. I'm going to need you to sign that for free. Oh, yeah. I know some of the people in the chat were talking about the LP debate.
Right. They're coming in between the LP. We
I did want to see
Spike and goof with it.
I wanted to see Spike, Joshua Smith, and Angela McArdle. I wonder if Michael Mouse will. Not Michael Mouse. I'm sorry. I mixed up Michael. I wonder if Michael Heiss. Just Mouse.
Of course, he's going to.
I wonder if he'll show up. I haven't seen him in the stream yet.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We definitely going to see. So we'll probably cut to them soon.
I'm also glad I'm not there personally. I would just fall asleep in the meeting.
There's a lot of dry stuff along the way.
A lot of bureaucracy and motions, but hey, I get it. I personally really agree with the Mises Caucus goal of trying to take over the LP and use it as a platform for changing minds. I mean, that's the goal. So
absolutely.
We'll see how it goes. I'm pretty sure they're gonna sweep it, but we'll see.
Well, we'll check in with them soon. So this is some of that cosplay stuff in the past.
Yeah. That's a real cop, by the way. I don't know if you guys know.
These kids
with his Darth Vader gloves. That was a real cop.
They thought that we were like shooting a porn because it like looks like, you know what I mean? That outfit just looks like smiling. A porn outfit or something like that.
Look. So this guy here is actually knows how to act. So you can see how his face is like angry. Look at me. I'm like trying my best to like look angry, but I'm like kind of smiling.
Yeah, it's like some super cop. Like...
That kick was real. Oh yeah.
That was pretty funny. That was just some of the cosplay ridiculousness that we had in another campaign. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, though actually I would say every cosplay has been very unique. So anyone who has those cosplay perks, I mean, that's so cool. You have a unique piece of
point of history. Yeah.
Myself cosplaying. I only ever cosplayed for this. That's really funny for me to realize. Like, I've never cosplayed, even though I like love anime. I've never cosplayed like Inuyasha or Attack on Titan or anything.
That's true. You
just
might
the Voluntaryist comic series.
Who knows?
But yeah. Oh, can you show a picture of Libertarian? I'm actually like really excited because like
I don't know if I have that expanded. I just realized I may not have it in my files.
That's okay. I think it's on the page.
Yeah, I mean, I could zoom in, I guess, in the page real quick.
Yeah, you can zoom in.
Oh, no, I can't zoom in. Not as much as I'd like to.
If you move your mouse over and then you start zooming in, it should directly go.
Oh, good point.
Into there.
Wow, you got so many great tips and tricks.
There you go. Okay, you don't have to
see it enough.
But yeah, you can see he has a big old axe over his shoulder. He has a belt that has the V on it. So cool. And he's a libertarian, but he also knows how to get lumber. So that's what I'm gonna be cosplaying. So I see 2 people already got it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if you want that, I'm gonna sign it. So check that out if you want that cosplay perk. And if you do contribute 20 or more, I'm gonna put 2 marshmallows in my mouth and try to say Chubby Bunny. I probably won't be able to do it. I'm pretty sure like 1 was already hard. I don't think I'll be able to do it 2, but I wonder if I'll see it tonight. Oh yeah, this is a
that's a 3D model.
That was when we were for a hot minute doing VR chat.
Right. So we had our own custom VR chats, but it's based on a character Voluntaryist for the series. So it's I think that the detail
and
on this
Voluntaryist is based on a real person.
Yeah.
namely me.
Is it? I didn't think so.
Oh, really?
I
Okay,
thought,
I'm
I
wrong.
thought, I don't know. Yeah. But you
Oh,
did
okay.
cosplay as her. You did cosplay as her.
She just looks like me. She looks
other
like me, but
characters-
like she's taller. Yeah, basically, she looks like me, but like taller.
Yeah, so you were saying a little more Americana than Asian, even though I had like an
Right.
Asian build.
She looks like a
know.
Hapa version of me,
What are you gonna do?
basically.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's not me. I got it. You heard it.
That's you though, right there.
Oh, hey, that's me. I think that was the last one.
Yeah, that was some Origins
fun.
5 with the effects.
Yeah, that was like, little teaser of what it could look like if we had Voluntarists live action film, right?
I mean, I think that
that'd
it's
be
really
fun.
inspiring. I mean, it is. It is also at the end of our music video. We did do the transformation
oh, yeah,
too.
that's true. Right. We should show that.
Yeah,
And
like
maybe
tie it over.
the end of it that
Yeah.
I did not consent.
Yeah, let me see. I'll go. Okay, let me see how this
If
works.
you haven't seen it, that is our latest music video that I produced, or we produced. I think in total music videos so far, we have 4. Right?
Do you count the Show Me Your Principles?
I will. Show me your principles, ANCAP grind, mask order, disobey. I did not consent. Oh, 5. Am I missing one?
Wait, show me disobey. Did you mask? Okay, and then
ANCAP grind.
oh, Tom Wood's house.
Oh, and Tom Wood's house. 6. Hey.
Yo.
So this is the latest one. If you
I'm
haven't
just going
seen
to
it,
the end.
yeah. So this is the end. So you can see it's kind of like
So the
a
end
fun
actually
tie-in.
right is a crossover. It was meant to be a tie-in to the Voluntarist campaign, so it's like cross-universe information. So if you were following along the music video, then you watch
Rap
24/7.
24/7. This is our last chance. Take a stand and become voluntarious and like glow yellow. Okay, that's what we're
Yeah.
saying.
So yeah, little Easter egg tie-ins to everything else that's going on. So
Awesome.
But-
Well, hope you guys are having fun, man. This is a fun stream so far. Debunked some sophists.
we debunked some gun-grabbing sophistry.
Yep. And I really like this going through the history of the Voluntarist comics. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So there's no new support in the campaign. So it's sad because I have all these marshmallows. I have all these marshmallows I want to stuff in my mouth. We're just 120 support.
You bundle of sticks, bro?
I
I'm
know.
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I mean, I don't know. It's
I don't like choose my
If I
words
just had 2
carefully.
marshmallows at a time, maybe I guess then yeah.
I seriously don't think I could fit 2 in my. Well, I think I could do 2, but it'd be hard to say Chubby Bunny. Oh, what do you say? Oh, Travis,
Hello.
YOLO. Nah.
Yeah.
Ball, yo.
On that note,
That's
though,
cheesy but funny.
I would like to just pop in here since they're killing time, waiting for the next support for the Chubby Buddy Challenge. I would like to see if we could actually look at the LNC convention. Oh, okay. So they're not doing anything at the moment. Okay.
Wow,
so it
9
already-
hours. Dang.
Okay, so they stopped streaming.
Oh,
So I guess
okay.
we missed
So-
whatever it was
Hey, look, Josh. Josh
I
Smith
told
was
you.
it.
because it.
All right,
Oh,
who
I'm
win?
so sorry.
Can someone-
I went off topic. What
Wait.
a thing to do at a libertarian convention.
Wait. Oh, share.
That is so. What are you talking
I'll get this
about?
thing rolling. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to
I
say
don't even
that
know what's going on, but it's
Hold on,
just.
I gotta share
Rob.
this screen real quick. So sorry, I
Hey,
just had shade
Pika
of something.
Pika, what's up?
Okay, so yeah, so we missed the end of whatever it was.
maybe Ron Paul told people not to call him a libertarian because of people like you. I actually got endorsed by Ron Paul in 2020. I was the first intra-party.
Yeah, so that was what we missed. We missed the
It's Josh saying,
everybody
"Hey,
throwing shade.
this is why I should be the VP chair, or why this guy shouldn't be." And yeah,
Yeah, if they were still going, I wanted to live comment on that. That'd be really hilarious. But it
Yeah.
looks like it's they already wrapped up whatever it was. So and the Spike did his thing too. So
anyone have the TLDR? Like, did Angela get it?
I think she did. I think Angela got like a
Did
crazy
Josh
amount
get it?
of
Okay.
support.
Oh, cool.
So yeah. So basically, yeah, I guess it's all good so far. Anything you want to in particular talk about or go over?
I mean, we could just waiting to be a chubby bunny. That's all.
I mean,
That's a great
we
game
could
name.
drop our standards. we
Could we do one for the super chat?
We
from
could.
Jesse?
I would do it for the super chat.
All right, Jesse's not here.
He says he's gonna watch it later. So Jesse, if you made it this far,
But I want to up the marshmallow. So let's look at Jesse. Let's scroll back up to Jesse.
Yeah. So okay, yeah, we'll scroll back up to Jesse here. So
Okay.
he said before he has a family emergency, he'll have to watch a show in a day. So in your honor,
And reminder
Jesse,
to stay strapped.
yeah, stay strapped. We're gonna Chubby Bunny too for you because you deserve it. You absolutely deserve our Chubby Bunnies.
That is a real G right there.
That is a real
I gotta
G.
say. But for future, we just want on the campaign so we could just reach those stretch goals.
Right, because
So
the stretch goals, I mean, again, it's going to unlock more types of perks. You have like art prints, game cards,
remaster
and
of
more
the
remastered
third.
covers. So,
yeah, that's exciting.
ready? Okay, actually, this is a lot harder than I thought. Tell me, buddy. Okay, actually, now that I just did that, maybe it's a good thing we didn't get too much because that was a lot harder than I remember doing it when I was younger, doing Chubby Buddy. 2 was already a lot. I have 3, I'd have to pack that pretty hard. Oh, you got your own bag over there, but you can use mine. Yeah, we each have our own spit bag.
I won't use your property.
It tastes good, but that's very dry in the mouth, to say the least.
Wow.
It's super dry.
Wow. Okay, so 2 was hard. I just don't think 3 is possible.
I can make 3 happen, and I'd be willing to make it happen for anyone who's willing to make it happen on the campaign. I will take that
All
risk.
right, we'll see.
We didn't get a D-choker, though, so if I die, I mean, you'll have to finish.
I'll be your D-choker.
stream.
I'll just like smack you super hard in the back.
Basically. But yeah, I mean, I would be dead probably, but you know.
Oh no.
And then someone will be like, these libertarian
So of all the
dies
things,
because he
Jack
rejected the government
dies
and did a Chubby Buddy.
from 3 marshmallows. I mean, I'm sorry, but that would just be the lamest way to go. I can't let you go like that. I would literally put my hand down your throat and take out the marshmallow.
That's true. All you have to do is like swirl your finger around me, throw some water in there or something like that. That'd be good enough. But yeah. So, you know, I do want to say though, I mean, on that note, thank you again for everyone who's been chilling and supporting and stuff like that and sharing. So even if you don't have change to spare, sharing the campaign to your social media, whether it's just your personal page or if you have a blog, whatever, I really do appreciate that because as you've seen, especially if you watched our, are we a right-wing echo chamber thing, and saw that, we got labeled wrongly and, obviously have been throttled because of that, because we've been grouped into these people. It's hard to get the message out. We bust our butts to try to reach people on multiple platforms. But
reach is just so killed. I mean, how
reach
could I
is killed.
have
The
over
government doesn't like it.
100,000 on Facebook but have less reach than when I only had like 20,000 on Facebook? And
Right.
that was back in 2016, 2017. So it just so much has changed in the past 5 years. So it really is down to just individuals now sharing on these bigger social platforms. On the alt platforms like mine's, that's a different story, right? But you just don't have the same amount of people that you do on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. It's just the way it is. Most people are staying on the platform. They're just trying their best to dispute all the stupid policies that are there and try to change it, basically. So yeah, I would say check out the campaign. Check out the different perks, and really want that trade paperback. That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, the trade paperback's going to be
cool.
sick because
those are the ones I like.
So the trade paperback, what I'm going to be doing there is, again, I'm going to be taking all 6 issues. I'm going to be remastering 1 and 2. Of course, we're going to finish the 6th one, and they're all going to come into one title. It's going to have a remastered cover. So I'm working with my buddy Igor. He's awesome, super talented artist. I love him. He is amazing.
Oh, he's actually working with Eric, right?
He's not doing Eric's
not
comic
anymore?
stuff. No, he works with being
okay.
libertarian and stuff like that, but he's not doing.
I thought he was helping with Eric's comic.
No. Eric has
I must have mistaken.
different people for his comic book series, but he's done stuff with him, but it's not for the Rippaverse. Rippaverse is going to be totally separate.
Okay.
So
wait, that's the name of his comic? Rippaverse?
No. He just called it Rippaverse for his universe. So like I have the Voluntaryist universe and I have my brand and Cap Comics.
Rippa is
but Rippaverse is his
named after him. because he's the Ripper, right?
Right.
Like a
So,
good
and again,
rapper.
I'm so
Yeah.
thankful that Eric's doing what he's doing because he's really helping people get
He's changing the
how
culture
important it is
a
to
lot. Yeah.
support outside the mainstream.
Right.
So Darius here says, in the history
Oh.
of anarcho-capitalism, I don't know what that history is, but it's like anarcho-capitalism is an ideology. So it's, I don't know. History would be more like a history of thought. Has there really been a completely stateless society, no monarch, no laws? Oh, well, I'm actually really glad he asked that because you know what? I'll do 3 marshmallows for that. I honestly, I just like the taste of marshmallow in my mouth, even if there's the threat of death. So I'm willing to not only answer that question, but I'm willing to stuff my mouth. Do you think you can do 3?
I could do 3.
All right,
I think.
I'm willing to go above and beyond.
I mean, 2
it's not
is
the
hard,
campaign,
but I'll
take
try.
it.
All right.
I'll take it. So I know, these are trying times with inflation. So here we go. We'll do a Chubby Buddy for the super chat for round 3. Good luck. I honestly, it was really tough fitting this in already. My mouth is not the biggest, so not that my mouth needs to fit anything too big in there. Oh. Chubby, you're very full.
Okay, yeah, that was pretty near impossible.
Okay. I honestly don't know that I can stuff much more in my mouth. 3 was like on the verge of like, I might die.
I mean, my whole mouth capacity was taken up.
Yeah. So we both
I
have
guess
3
everyone
marshmallow
knows the
mouths.
size of our mouths.
Yeah. Like, you can
Our
measure
Jack
it.
and Pho's mouths are 3 regular marshmallows big.
3 marshmallows.
Well, thanks, Darius.
We probably should have actually zoomed in that bigger for that 3. Okay.
I'm pretty sure in terms of no laws.
I have specific answers for all that. So let me know when you want me to tap in.
Yes.
Oh.
I will tap you in. Oh, what's this? You're gonna do it again? You're gonna try again?
Well,
Did you fail? Oh, you had to do it again? Did you fail the first
no,
time?
I just wanted you to have the up close version so you could really feel it was like to have all that in my mouth. Okay.
Basically, it's hard. You were like suffocated.
It is not a. These are some dusty mallows. So
Powdery.
when you talk about
I think the word you meant is powdery. If they were dusty, that'd be a problem.
I mean, I kind of like that name, Dusty Mallows. I'll take it. I'll take some Dusty Mallows.
Yeah.
I'll eat some Dusty Mallows.
All right, I'm a tap in Jack. Go on.
Tap me in. All right, tap me in, coach. So when it comes to stateless society saying no monarch, no laws. So first, anarcho-capitalism doesn't reject laws. So that's an important thing. Stateless does not mean no laws. It just means no mandatory automatic rulers enforcing laws upon all people. So laws can include voluntary arbitration, guilds, and things like that. Actually, merchants, especially in the high seas and the monsoon marketplaces, going over across India to Southeast Pacific Asia area. There was a huge incentive for people to want to resolve disputes dealing with shipments. So guild forming and having voluntary laws was obviously huge because people just want to do business and there's a dispute, they want to work it out.
Right. Basically, voluntary contracts.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just contracts within parties wanting to join that. Now, if we're going to go back really deep on history, we're going to get early man, the Bantu peoples of Africa. These are early African peoples. They did not have a state. They were stateless. How they resolve their disputes was actually through an elder system. And so the idea there was that the elders had longevity and years under the belt, and they have lived lifelong and they're less impulsive. So like the elders, whenever there's a conflict among younger people, would come together and resolve the disputes because they had a general interest, the elders did, in seeing things be peaceable and not having wider conflict. So the Bantu peoples had an informal kind of hierarchy and they resolved disputes that way. There's also in Southeast, or I should say Southwest Asia, there was quite a large group of people who basically lived statelessly because they fled persecution from many different conquests, the Mongol Empire and so forth. James C. Scott, Yale professor, wrote a book called The art of not being governed, and that covers their stateless period. There's also a period in medieval Iceland in which, there was no effective ruler, and people just, did arbitration. If you like biblical history, then there was a period in ancient Israel where there was no kings. There was just judges for a bit before they asked for a king. That's 1 Samuel 8. So these are just some small examples.
Can I add another one?
Yeah, I can tap you back in.
The quote Wild West. Would you include that one?
No, I would not include. I would not include Western America per se if he's truly trying to be like no governments really whatsoever.
Oh, because I thought there was like people who chose to go to unclaimed territory in the West, and
sure, I mean
they formed their own like contracts with each other, right?
There probably was,
like,
but my first
influence.
inclination of thought there is just thinking about the towns that came up to have a sheriff at least for the town kind of thing. So they had some type of governance or small, city councils. I don't know. I would need a more specific example than a generality there for that to say,
okay.
Oh, West, it's just too big. It's
well,
too diverse.
you listed like 6 or 7. That hopefully that answers your question, Darius.
Well, yeah.
Several examples for you.
And then, Somalia technically had a period of you call it statelessness, but it was really warring factions after the collapse of their civil government, and things improved during that time. You can read about that in Mises. So,
is that a book you would recommend? The Art of Not Being Governed?
Yes, that's a very rich history on how certain people who fled persecution by other governments in Southeast Asia ended up congregating together, and many of them were illiterate or just kind of nomadic and stuff like that, or just lived up in the mountains, but they did so because they didn't want to be conquered. So it was like basically by being unconquerable, they were left alone, right? So and of course then they grew and grew and grew, and they're still relatively there to some degree because China's a very big place. It's got a lot of people. You have all different types of living experiences in China, as you know. So those are just some of the examples.
Oh, great question. Thanks for the question in the super chat. And I hope you like the 3 marshmallow chubby money challenge there.
The House says, hey, what you're saying is true. Disputes were handled with death threats in all the time periods you're naming. The great leaders united those clans to form states. I don't know what you're saying that is not true, because in order to say that what I'm saying is not true. Which specific
thing? You listed 7 different examples.
Well, not even that. We can go even deeper. You have to go to the beginning. You didn't define what a state is. So I wouldn't even say you can even start to say that what I'm saying is false until you've actually defined what a state is. And a state is a unilateral claim by a small group of people over pre-existing lands, bodies, and properties made by forcible decree. So what you're describing and can't even be falsified until you've actually come to a definition. So it's not that what I'm saying is not true. It's that you might be expanding the definition of a state to something that is not traditionally considered a state in modern nation state sense.
Right.
So so he doesn't know what any of this is. So Hal says how gang life in today is that. Okay, so you have no idea about any of this whatsoever, the history, philosophy. So you're just making assertions. Cool. Thanks for letting us know. So again, anarcho-capitalism is not gang life. That would be the initiation of force. Anarcho-capitalism is the idea that a group of people does not need to claim to own wide groups of others over a certain region and tax everybody by default of their birth. That's the difference. So someone says Amish would be closer to communitarian. Yeah, Amish is not. Amish have governments. They're not communists at all. They have private property. People don't understand.
Right.
So this is like, you don't know how gangs work. Yeah, actually, funny story. I do because I was criminal defense attorney and worked with people who were in gangs, and my dad also worked with people who were in jail who were in gangs. So I actually have quite a bit of experience.
It's not based on property rights. It's literally territory wars.
Gangs are literally just people that are mafias,
and they are claiming a unilateral ownership of all the people, property, and businesses in the area. That's what they're fighting over is territory.
Right.
It's not anarcho-capitalism.
Rather, gangs are just governments that haven't gotten sophisticated enough to try to pretend to be a charitable social services organization. That's it. A gang or a mafia is just, they haven't gotten sophisticated enough to cover up their threats of violence with the ruse that, well, we actually are here to serve you. We have social services, right? So that's the main difference. So again, there's nothing within the, you could say anarcho-capitalist or voluntarist ideology that is in alignment with the idea that that's gangs. That's
Right.
that'd be the opposite of that ideology. So
Oh, I do want to cover that fact check. So another one that we talked about the fact check in the beginning of all those gun grabbers. There was another one that I found really interesting. That was a fact check too.
Yeah.
It was one where I was just sharing like a tweet by someone that said like, okay, leftists. Okay. Said like leftists, monopolies are bad. And then it also said, also leftists. Oh no, Elon Musk like forming a monopoly or something. In fact, let me just pull it up. Oh, that's cool. Picture in picture. Okay. Let's. Oh, interesting. Okay, I guess it's not here. Well, that's unfortunate. Let me see if I can actually pull up my Instagram on another page then. Let's see. Oh, I see. I was looking for the tweet, the one where it was Luis Fernando Mises
yeah.
talking about leftists, but I don't see it on here. So, but anyway, that was just another example of how they didn't give me a chance to appeal. They actually flagged that entire post as false. So they actually cover up the image now. They make it so that it's throttled. It won't show up in people's feeds as regularly. The algorithm doesn't like it. And it's now just covered up and just totally flagged as false. And it was just, this meme that was just saying like leftists are against monopolies. But then when it comes to like, I think Elon Musk taking over, what was it, Twitter? I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, it was a different.
But
it was a different.
Yeah, I wish I had the
about
example.
Google and everything.
Right, but the point is, it's just like, it was just saying leftists, right? And then the fact check was like, this is false information. The Democratic Party is against monopolies. So it was just like this total political move of censoring, just political censorship. So anyway, if you go to my Instagram, you can see it. If you just scroll a little, you'll see that there's one image that's just totally covered up. That's the one I'm talking about. But yeah. Oh, okay. So Darius.
So Darius said, do you feel, although it's not a feeling, it's a thought, an ANCAP society can exist on a large scale across cities of millions? The ANCAP examples you listed were a small homogenous population. So do you want to take that? Or do you want me to take it? Or do you want both? We're both going to take it. We're going to tag team it and then.
Yeah. I would just say, yeah, I definitely think it could work. And it's about decentralization, right? So if you have property rights and it's decentralized, you can have that large scale. It's just a matter of changing minds and having people respect it, So I think it's possible. But yeah, what are you going to say?
Sure. So when it comes to the question of work, right, we need to talk about what work means. So a lot of people mean work to be that there's political stability and that people can otherwise live their lives uninterrupted. But they don't apply even that thinking to governments now, right? No one sits there and says, oh, can governments work? And then they're like, well, what do you mean?
Trillions of debt.
I don't know. There's
Massive
262 million people
runaway
murdered
inflation
and democide, state democide in the 20th century alone. 262 million. That's more than the people killed in private murder. Okay,
that's a good point.
That's more than the people killed in private murder.
What you mean by working?
Right. So what is working?
And also compared to what?
And compared to what? So before even getting there, we have to first think about what it means to work, and we have to think about what states actually do in terms of the people involved in what's actually happening. I mean, you look at, that's some really good iced coffee. When you think about what states end up doing empirically with the people involved, it's mass violence and theft. So I don't know if I don't know if you would call that working, but for some people in some places in the world, for some periods of time, they have peace and stability. Of course, if you died in the American Civil War, or if you're drafted to Vietnam and got killed, or if you were in the Middle East during the last 20 years and the U.S. was drone bombing people and you had your wedding destroyed, you might wonder if government works.
Yeah, is it that society that's not working, or is it the aggressors that are literally bombing their homes that's not working?
So the harsh reality that a lot of people don't really want to face is that this is not a matter of can it work or this is that. It's a matter of if people do not work toward this end, government, the concept and the structure is going to kill everybody. Literally, you're in a battle of mafias that are amassing weapons of mass destruction, whether it's nuclear, biological, whatever. And these petty tyrants are constantly doing little pivots against each other and little skirmishes and building up and getting more and more aggressive. And it is a literal suicide mission, right? There's going to come a time when it's going to be explosive. And I'm talking quite literally. And we've already had in the last 20 years alone, millions dead in various places across the world in wars and famines and other stuff like
There's
that.
little genocide going on in
Little
China
genocide
and
going-
has
right.
been since.
Right. Is government
so long,
working for the
the
Falun
Uyghurs-
Gong people? Is government working for them when they're in a concentration camp?
Or the Hong Kong people who
Right.
literally have been taken
Or the
over.
North Koreans? Is government working for them? So it's really something that we need to divorce this idea of working and start looking at the idea of ethics and changing things before it's going to be very, dire. Because it is a governments and competing with each other is a suicide mission. And as we've already seen with what happened with the Great Reset, what they're trying to do. I mean, these people want people dead.
They
They're
want to
feeding them
take over the
garbage.
world, and they want to have a monopoly on all resources, all property, and they want to be the central controllers of everything. These are the people, right? Look at the World Economic Forum. They made a little video. It says, and we predict that in 20 years or 10 years or whatever, that you will own nothing and you will be happy. That you won't even own a home. You just rent. You just rent perpetually, right? You'll live in a pod and you'll be happy. You'll enjoy it. You won't even eat that much meat. In fact, meat will become a delicacy. These are the people that are literally trying to take over the world, while they themselves eat like the best meat. They fly in private jets. They talk about sustainability and we gotta just switch to we hate fossil fuels, but they themselves are users. They are liars. They just want to take over. That's what they want. They want to dominate the world. They want to take over your life and your family and make you just a complete slave, like a total slave. Right now, we're depending where country in, maybe 50%, 60% slave because of how much, effective taxation is taken out. Maybe you just have 40% left. It also depends on how many victimless crime laws are on the books too, in terms of how free you are now. But these people are literally looking for total slavery, total just complete control of everything you do, every single thought that you have. If you haven't seen it, you should watch 1984. Actually, there's a lot of things you should see. Maybe you should read Anatomy of the State by Rothbard. And that would be your first understanding of, hey,
or read this
all
book.
of these words. The Definitive Guide to Libertarian. Actually, that's a great, I would say it's easier to digest than Anatomy of the State. And that actually goes into all the principles of what we believe and the ethics that we're advocating for, which is just a consistent universal respect of body and property rights. That's it. And a complete abolition of any system, any people group that is advocating for coercion and taking over your property and your life. So that's really where you got to start. I thought that was a great point about first, whenever someone makes an assertion like that, this general statement of can anarcho-capitalism work for millions? It's okay, what they're trying to say is imply that, it can't work if there's no example of it working in mass. That's the implication there. But you first got to ask them, okay, how do you define working, right? And then once they define that, then say, okay, that's your definition of working. Now, how is government working for you in that regard, right? If you're talking about freedom and things like that,
right? If you tolerate
prosperity.
Not working by your own definitions, then you really don't care about working in the first place.
Yeah,
it's kind of a performance contradiction.
You're just holding on because you're in fear of the unknown and just accepting tyranny.
And I would say that, what's most important in terms of communicating anarcho-capitalism and other things, there's a lot to go through with it when you're talking about ethics and economics, but at least starting with the ethics side, the ethics side has to be realized as something that's of individual practice first. It's a negative rights ideology, which means that it's just about you and yourself choosing not to initiate force against people, their bodies, and their property, right? So you believing that doesn't require you to change the world or own everything. You can act on that, whether everyone out there is a libertarian or whether everyone out there is an evil, murderous statist. It doesn't matter. You can always choose to live by those principles. It doesn't require anybody else for you to do that.
Right.
But beyond that, though, the economic incentives, so we're talking about what are the incentives and the consequences that drive human action that would incentivize people to want to think about solutions outside of the state. That is already something that is so empirically observable and demonstrable and economically so that it's not very hard to think about and to actually, kind of process through what you already know. And just some simple examples of that would be people doing arbitration clauses whenever they sign agreements and stuff like that, right? People agree to independent private arbitration for all different types of things without, doing government courts first. You can even dispute stuff on PayPal, right? You can have a PayPal dispute. You have a dispute with your credit card company, right? Without actually going to court. There's many different ways that you might think about dispute resolution, solving problems outside the state. There could be community watches.
Basically outside coercion.
Right, outside coercion, right? Community watches. There's private defense. Private security outnumbers police, around the world by and large, in most places, you have more private security officers than you do actual police officers. So these are these are things that are not really immaterial or just like unseen. They exist now. Private solutions exist now. The question is to what extent can people start to evolve and move away from a state-based reliance down to a market-based reliance? And for me, I present the not-for-profit government model, which just means that the government should transition to becoming like a not-for-profit agency. They don't tax. They can only raise money voluntarily, which means that they have lotteries, fundraisers, raffles, whatever, advertisement, but everything but forcible taxation. And that's a part of moving the culture and moving people's choices in the market toward thinking outside of state solutions and really only funding government what they actually value. And the closer we get to that, I think it will enable people to see what types of bounties and opportunities come from freeing the market. But with anything where the government is controlling the market, people can't imagine what else is out there, right? In other countries,
like if the government monopolized t-shirt production,
right?
And they're the only producers of t-shirts, whatever. You might be like, oh, only the government can produce t-shirts, just like they monopolize road constructions, or rather is the middleman paying for road contracting and construction companies. They're mostly the ones funding. So you just think, oh, only government can do it. It's just a bias that you have from what is. And also ignoring like the very real victims of the state, like massive amounts of victims that are just there by default, including all the people who are taxed. So
right, and that's the part of the economics of the
that's
unseen.
just what we're against, is the coercion, and stop excusing these tyrants. Stop being like, oh yeah, taxation is necessary or nothing's gonna work. Okay, well, how about you go put a gun to your neighbor's head and threaten to put them in your basement and lock them up if they don't fork up 40% of their income, 20%, even $10, right? Are you going to do that? No. You're just going to put your moral culpability on this abstract thing called the state and then say in your mind that it's right when it's not. When you really are advocating for the creation of victims by default. So
exactly. The government's actions themselves distort the reality of what people want, and there's unintended consequences too. That is unintended by the supposed intentions of those in the government. Just like when the government gives
maybe intentional, depending on
yes,
who.
there's some who are intentional. There's some who are intentional.
Right.
But like, for example, foreign aid, right? The idea is, if we could give people money in other countries, it'll help them get out of poverty. But in reality, that money is often given to the wealthiest crony people in those countries.
The politicians of the state.
And then sometimes people will give like physical products too, like,
wasn't it like gender
shoes.
Studies in Iran?
I don't know if that's tying. Well, I guess that's a crony deal. That was money laundering basically by the government.
Money going to,
right. That was more just like a crony kickback thing. But like we're talking about, like just pure foreign aid, it's going to the economic and political elite in those countries. And then if they get something physical, like Tom's giving shoes to poor kids, it sounds good at first, but then you miss out that they're disincentivizing shoe manufacture and productivity in their own country. because they're just expecting, well, someone's going to try to give it away, for free here and push out people that are entrepreneurs trying to develop stuff. So there's a lot of different ripple
and not
effects
to
that we
mention
consider.
that the funds they're using was stolen in the first place.
Right.
So all those people don't have that money and that choice to choose their rightfully acquired wealth, their rightfully acquired money, property, and having the ultimate choice in what they do with it. They're robbed of that choice with taxation. So
yeah.
I think that's a great point of just mentioning too. It's as we advocate for these principles, as we are anarcho-capitalists or whatever you want to call it, voluntarists, we are not saying like, okay, what does that mean in the transition, right? It's about changing minds. And I like the idea of the not-for-profit government model, or whatever you want to call it. Just basically removing the things from the state and federal governments that we have today that make them coercive. So to start off, like the fact that they have the power to tax you, right? They can just write laws. They could just raise taxes on you. You have property taxes too that make it so that you don't actually own your home, right? Because if you're paying property taxes and if you don't ever pay them, you can be kicked out of your house, as happened to like a lot of old people. They're retirees, they're on fixed incomes. And if they can't afford the property taxes anymore, like maybe a bunch of out-of-staters move in or something, their taxes go up. Well, now they can't afford it and the state takes their home. So even though they paid off their mortgage, they don't get it. So that's all we're saying is remove those coercive elements from the state as a step one. Remove and abolish all victimless crime laws and just see how and free the market and just see how much things will change, even though you may still have this kind of structure of government in place. Like you may still have police, right? But they don't have the power to put you in prison for not paying them, right? They actually have to persuade you, like any other sane person in the market. They actually have to, persuade you to give them money, right? So that's all we're saying. It's really not that hard when you think about just what we're advocating for. And I would say most people agree and want that. I just think what happens is they start getting these abstract feelings of fear, like, oh no, we're not going to have roads, or oh no, people are going to just be poor, like, and totally just ignoring all the poor people suffering today, like the homeless problem in California. That's a huge state, right? Like ignoring the poverty that exists, ignoring the people that are evicted from their homes because they can't afford the property taxes anymore. Those are the victims that these people are actually ignoring when they're in this mindset of fear. And that's actually how the state and rulers throughout history have maintained their rulership. They use fear, uncertainty, and doubt to try to instill that in people to make them think, oh, if we don't have this person ruling us, if they're not forcing everybody, including myself, around me to give them money and fund their lavish lifestyles, right? Every person in power has a really bougie lifestyle. Like I've never seen like super poor, has rags, like truly benevolent government. This doesn't exist. They all love the money.
Oh yeah.
It's like purely an obvious incentive to try and get a hold of this monopoly on violence, this power to tax anyone indefinitely, right? And that's all we're saying. Nobody should have more rights than you. We should all have the same body and property rights, right? That's all we're saying.
So Darius says here, what's the
did we miss one up? I missed one.
That
yeah.
one? Oh, sorry.
And did we get Darius?
This one? Yeah.
Okay, we talked about. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the one.
government ancient
Crush
Israel with
Satan.
King Solomon and David considered gang to you? Yeah, of course. I mean, it's like, of course. I mean, it was funny. So I'm not
familiar with the Bible story,
Yeah,
so
so
you
you-
can
yeah.
expand on.
Give me a tap in.
This is a Bible
Tap
expert
in.
over here, so yeah,
Bible
you can talk
expert,
about.
baby. I went through lots of Christian school. All right, so when it comes to just the voluntarist ANCAP position, of course, governments are always mafias. Now, if you want to go to the Christian anarchist position, if you read in 1 Samuel 8, the ancient Israelite body, they were ruled by judges, and then they looked to other nations, in other words, other peoples, and they were envious that they had kings. So they like were really like, oh my gosh, they have a king. Why don't we get a king? So basically, God in the Bible said, you don't want that. Here's the reasons why. And he goes on a list about like how he's going to take their women, take their stuff, go to war, do this crazy stuff. And then the people still said they wanted it, even though they were cool with just having judges before, where it's like the judges would just manage disputes and keep things chill.
Right.
So,
and that's just managing disputes. That's not
Right.
these judges going around and be like,
Yeah.
you better pay up or you're going to go in the basement.
right. So it was really bad, actually. And the God of the Bible literally warned against having a king. Like it wasn't a good thing. It was like literally, don't do this. This is a bad idea. And they did it anyway. So that's the short of it. Even by Christian theology, getting a king was a bad idea. At that, especially, with ancient Israel. So, and of course, by, secular or Christian anarcho-capitalist voluntarists, they would all agree that, of course, it's a mafia, and they acted that way. I mean, the story of what Solomon did and David did in terms of pillaging people, and takings and other stuff and conflicts they had, and they, both of them had women issues. So there's other
to say the
juicy
least.
stories with that too.
Oh, okay.
But that's pretty consistent. Most of the people who try to promote government usually use the New Testament verse, over the Old Testament for Christians and stuff like that. So,
Anything on the campaign?
nothing that I can see. Nothing new on the campaign.
Okay.
No chubbies. Although I'll do a chubby bunny
No
for this.
chubbies.
Maybe
we'll close.
Actually, I'll do a chubby bunny on this guy.
close with the chubby.
All right. So Darius says, what's the ANCAP position on abortion? Rothbard liking the unborn parasites, justification of abortion. I'm pro-life because unborn are innocent and natural rights. Is the state wrong to intervene to protect life? So, I mean, for myself, I literally wrote a whole chapter, or section dealing with that in my book. So I
Right.
have a very lengthy discussion about that. What would you like to do in terms of how we take this, or what do you want to do?
I could give an answer, and then you could expand.
Sure,
So-
whatever you'd like to say.
Yeah. So
contradict.
first of all, it comes from property rights, right? So the first thing is this idea that you own yourself, you own your body, and thus when you justly acquire property, either through first appropriation or voluntary trade, that becomes your property, and now you have full-on rights to do with that property what you will. Save it, not spend the money if it's money, destroy it, augment it, whatever. So ultimately, that's where it all comes from. That's the foundational philosophy of anarcho-capitalism, libertarianism, voluntarism, basically. And so when you have that, you look at abortion and you say, okay, let's say, somebody got pregnant, right? And it doesn't, like, let's say 3 months. Okay. And they're saying, okay, I'm not ready to continue going through with these body transformations or whatever. By the way, if you meet any women who actually go with abortion, it's a really sad and tragic thing. Like, it's not like, anyway. So you go through abortion. I think it is your right to have that baby like evicted from your body. I mean, it sounds horrible like when you say it like that, but ultimately it's your body that you own, and you can choose to stop the process of growing that human being. Now, what I don't agree with is what tends to happen with abortions is they do horrible things, like they're like purposely trying to kill it. So you can evict something from your body, but I don't think it's right that when it's out of your body, that you have the right to just kill it. And that's where you get into these conversations where in some places, like, it's insane. They're just like, oh, okay. If you take out the baby, maybe they'll like try to like destroy the brain, and it's just really messed up stuff. Like, that to me is an escalation. It's no longer just simply taking something out of your body. Now it's actively trying to destroy that thing. So that's where the line is drawn for me. Having the right to evict, something else from your body, but you shouldn't then, once it's out of you, like, kill it. So that's my thoughts, but you can expand on that.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just going to give
Or if
my,
there's
I'm just
anything
going to
you
give my
disagree
position
with,
just
too.
straight up, because, like, again, I wrote
Yeah,
all chapters.
if there's anything you disagreed with what I said, please clarify.
I'm going to go ahead and just start from the beginning, because I think I want to get even more precise with language. So when it comes to abortion itself, generally, I think that it's an absolutely horrible, tragic thing. So I just want to say that, first and foremost, I want to see abortion reduced to 0. That would be great. Just because it is
And
so
how do you have
horrible
that
and tragic.
monogamous, virtuous relationships?
So-
and anyway,
Right.
don't
So-
come if you're not
Right.
ready to have a baby.
So
inside.
that's an important first step, right? So going to the beginning, though, I'm going to expand on this like very thoroughly, as I do in my books. I'm going to give you the whole thing. So when it comes to the nature of conception, we have to look at the nature of conception in itself with the lens of voluntarism, libertarianism, property rights. So I have to really look at the inception in order to properly analyze the property rights issues, because that's what it's about. We're talking about a mother and a child, and how do those property rights mesh, right? That's what we're tried to really understand. So the non-aggression principle, that is this idea of non-initiation of force, maximizing consent, minimizing the initiation of force, can't be applied to the act of conception. And the reason why it can't be applied is because no one chooses to be born, right? You can't consent to be born. Being born is forced upon you. So you can't validate or moralize someone's being forced into existence and judging that by a consent-based ethical standard and have that be logically consistent. It just doesn't make any sense, right? You can't apply it. So I think that the nature of conception is itself amoral. It's just a fact of existence. Even though parents can choose to have sex, again, everybody springs from unchosen choices of past generations. You do not choose, as far as we can tell, you can't choose to be born. You can't say something with a consciousness before you have consciousness, right? It's just, there's no way to show that to be true. So because of that, it helps avoid a lot of problems, because if there was a consent ethic application on the nature of conception, well, then either the child is being harmed by being forced to exist by their parents, so that's violating their consent. They didn't get to choose. So then
and there have been some people that say that to their parents.
There are some.
Why did you have me? I
Right.
wish I was never born.
So there, so there is, that issue there on that lens, and then there's also the issue of the idea that, oh, well, does a parent own their kid because the child is the product of the parents' bodies and their food and their intake, and they're growing them in the womb. So, oh, is that now the parent's slave? And no, that's not true either, because there's I have another chapter on why slavery is, not ethically possible in the framework. But just for the sake of argument here and kind of the chase, both of these absurdities we don't want as outcomes here, because obviously a child is not going to be the slave to the parent for the rest of their lives. No one even wants that, across the spectrum. No one's like, oh, my parents own me when I'm 30, still. And no one's going to respect the idea that, well, your parents now are your slaves for life because they forced you to exist. And because your existence continues forever until you die, well, they owe you for life, right? Mm-hmm. So it's helping to avoid these kind of absurdities that would occur if you tried to apply consent ethics to the nature of conception. So I think that the actual act of the sperm, meaning the egg, that is itself the creation of life. And I take it to be that is when life begins. So I am, for all intents and purposes, giving the most favorable light analysis to the nature of conception, because all the genetic information is there for a child to develop, and they're actively developing. It's living. It's, the child is definitely living and growing at that point, the second that meets. So I take that to be 100% favorable light analysis to the idea of, conception being life begins. But that said, we then still have to look at the metering of bodily property rights. So if we're not applying consent ethics to the nature of conception, we have two different people. We have the mother, we have the child. The child's existence is wholly dependent upon the mother's continued, essentially
eating
gifting,
food, being healthy,
of
avoiding
her blood
falling,
and her nutrients to the child through the nuchal cord, the umbilical cord, going into the body of the child. So a mother has the right to remove unwanted persons from her body. So this right to remove an unwanted person includes her own child. Again, I think it's tragic. I think it's terrible, and I would love to see it reduced to 0. Yeah. But trying to get to do this to the state and other stuff like that, there's a lot of problems.
Yeah, putting guns to people's heads in this case is not the way to go.
Yeah, I'll definitely elaborate on that toward the end, with the state part. So a mother has the right to remove her child from her body. And to the extent the child would die in the process, just by the act of removal, it's a tragic outcome. It's sad. It's a tragic thing, but I think the mother has the higher right to do this. What I don't think a mother has the right to do is to intentionally kill her child who would otherwise be able to live outside the womb independently.
And it's really messed up. That happens a lot.
Right.
Like
Late-term abortion using
Parenthood.
vacuums. And again, I think that is clear and unequivocal that a child who could live outside the womb, or would live outside the womb past, being removed.
Yeah.
And then intentionally killing that child, I think would be an ethical wrong, killing a child as a intentional act that way. So the other issues here to consider that I also use as kind of a backdrop for people to consider, because again, it can be very jarring to think about that, because I come from a very pro-life background. I used to be a pure pro-life person, March of Dimes level, like
state intervenes.
State intervenes. Back in the day, I
right,
used to
abortion.
be someone who was, very much so, big into that. Government needs to, ban this, even day one of
You're a
conception.
neocon.
Yeah, I was neocon. So
Yeah.
There's a very big inconsistency that comes up that a lot of people in this camp are not willing to actually own up to. And that is the fact that women can have miscarriages due to negligence and recklessness. And what that means is that a miscarriage is when your body, ends up having, not my body, because I'm not a girl, but a woman's body.
A woman's body.
I know what a woman is. I can define
And
what
men
a woman is.
cannot have babies, okay?
I can define what a
For
woman
the
is.
record, Google, men can't have babies. All you people trying to say that men can't have babies. No, what you're talking about is a woman who
Got
identifies
uterus.
as a man who kept her woman parts
An
and is a
XY.
woman pregnant, okay?
Right.
That just looks like a dude. All right.
So them XY chromosomes. So a woman, a woman who has a miscarriage, right, typically is not looked at as someone who, is worthy of investigation or is a problem. People are just like, oh, they had a miscarriage, it's sad, and they move on. But that's not reality. Reality is that miscarriage is not only a risk factor. But I should say there are known risk factors that lead to miscarriage, but a woman could actually choose not to try to procreate when she has those extreme risks.
Right.
And some of those things include weak uterine lining, food choice, obesity, and if you had a prior
Alcohol
miscarriage,
use.
if you had prior miscarriages, you're at a much higher risk. So someone
Or you
who
were on birth control for a long time.
but that's a separate issue because we're not dealing with birth control since we're trying to go away from birth control. So, and abortion. So again, women have the ability to say, ooh, I should not try to procreate because if I do, have a reckless or negligent chance of causing a miscarriage. And if you wanted a good analogy of this, I give the analogy in my book that if someone is driving on the road and they're texting and driving, they're looking down and they run into a kid and kill that child, nobody says, you didn't mean to kill that kid. You were just texting. You didn't mean to kill him, right? You would say, whoa, that's manslaughter. You were being distracted. You were negligent. You were reckless. You should have known better, right? There's an investigation that takes place into that child's death. Even though the person did not intend the child to die, they were just doing something that was negligent or reckless or careless of that nature. The same thing applies to procreation. Women can go to a doctor and figure out their risks and have a body analysis, a blood analysis, and look and see, am I at a greater risk for miscarriage? And if you've already had a miscarriage, you're at a very much higher rate chance of miscarriage. So a woman can go and try to get pregnant multiple times, conceive multiple times, have multiple killed children through miscarriage, but be doing that knowing that they're at a higher risk. Why would you allow that? But if someone were to text and drive and kill a kid and text and drive and kill a kid, you'd be like, that's crazy. You'd be like, whoa. You should not be doing this because you know that this can lead to that death result. And there's, you're disregarding a real obvious safety measure. So people don't apply that consistently, in my opinion, for when it comes to miscarriage and this abortion issue. They don't actually hold women to that standard of being like, oh, every miscarriage needs to be an investigation for murder because we don't know. Maybe this miscarriage really was an abortion, or maybe she was being negligent or reckless by trying to procreate when she really was not in an unsafe. She was in an unsafe position to do so and needed to lose some weight or change her diet and vitamin choices, right? But people don't want to have that consistency because they're not ready to be consistent. I mean, come on, this is a hot button issue that people are they get all angry about because it's like either you're a murderer, you're a child killer, or you're denying women bodily autonomy. It's such a heated issue that people want to grab each other's throats over, and so
it's yet another thing that in politics they just use it to divide.
Right. It's just a dividing issue.
Use it to create this, try to paint a black or white world of you're evil or you're just all good. Instead of like, look, people are try to understand each other's positions here. I like how someone came in. They're like, hello. Whoa, heavy topic.
It is a heavy topic. So I just want to, get to the end part, which is the most important part. So the end goal that I really want to get people to realize, and this is more important, I think, than anything, is that trusting the state and the government with this type of issue is just not a winning solution, because no matter what way you cut it, the government is distorting this in all different ways, whether they're funding Planned Parenthood and helping more people have abortions who definitely, are just being reckless, or whether the government is could use this, and they have used in the past, but they could use it again to invade women's privacy and to try to go after people, use it as a political oppression tool. It is just not a wise thing to have government deal with in the first place. I mean, government should be, dealing with anything, obviously, in the ultimate, but it's one of those issues where I think you really got to think outside the state. And to me, what I try to emphasize is that we need a cultural shift of helping connect more women to resources about how to avoid being unwantedly, pregnant in the first place, and on how to get care for their children, getting the government out of the way when it comes to adoption and other things like that. Again, of course, want to make sure that they're not being adopted to child traffickers, obviously. But there is certainly a governmental regulatory barrier to entry, from what I understand, about the red tape that makes it harder for adoption to go through. And I think that if we're to actually really meaningfully reduce abortions down to zero, the thing to emphasize is trying to be proactive in helping others avoid pregnancy in the first place and allowing for opportunities for children to be adopted, making it, less strenuous. So again,
so kind of two focuses, prevention, but then if you are pregnant, but you do, then maybe helping to encourage and say, hey, we'll support you to deliver this baby, and then help you to connect with a family that actually wants to adopt and take care of your child. Right. And actually a lot of Christian, for example, organizations will try to do that. That's like one solution outside the state that some people have already thought of to try to just encourage, like, hey, some family really does want to take care of your child if you don't want to, but so please don't abort, just carry through and we'll support you financially to bring, deliver the baby. That's a really, cool way to,
And I would say just another point on top of that, just about like inconsistencies, because I talked about inconsistency with, people not really like holding women accountable for miscarriage and like using that as an opportunity to be like, well, was this a murder, or was she negligent or reckless? Again, they're not consistently held standards. There's another one. If the mother is an accessory to murder, no one's like, if you had an abortion, the mother should be killed because she killed her kid, right? People will be like, no, we need to go up to the doctors. It's like, yeah, the doctors, but it's the mom who's collaborating with them. They're working together to commit this act of murder that you're saying. So why are women who commit abortion also deserving of death? Like, and a lot of people try to rationalize that. Again, they downplay it because like, I just
and now you created a different standard than
two-tiered system of ethics.
Like, so killing an adult is gives you one standard, but then killing a baby or a baby in the womb gives you a different standard. That's where, when you see that sort of contradiction, that's when you need to actually think more and resolve that contradiction in your ethics.
Exactly. And that's what I try to do. I just try to emphasize to people, hey, think about your ethics. Are they really consistent? Are you really holding the same standard of disgust and sense of injustice all the way to the entirety of the situation? Sorry, leave the water here.
Oh, bless you.
The entirety of the situation
marshmallows
across all circumstances. Again, if it's murder, you should have negligence and recklessness be an included charge when it comes to miscarriage. If you know that you shouldn't be having a kid, Just like if you're texting and driving, you kill a kid, you're engaged in reckless behavior that should have been avoided to not kill the kid, even if you didn't intend it. If you didn't intend the miscarriage, you didn't intend hitting the kid while driving, it doesn't matter. You still have recklessness or negligence that contribute to it, and you'd be held accountable. But nobody wants to do that. So again, if I can get people to just be consistent on that, and then to say, okay, all right, I'm not being consistent on this. I do need to be a bit more consistent, but at least, okay, how do we fix this and get things towards zero with abortion? And then I try to get people to say, okay, think outside the state, right? Number one, just think outside the state. And also remember,
think outside coercion, basically.
Right.
If you want it more crystal clear for you, if like
think
saying the
coercion.
state is too abstract, like think outside of initiating violence on people. Right?
Right. Well, and yes, but I mean, it's even more dynamic than that because of the government's funding mechanism with taxation. But the core here is just helping people to recognize what's in their control, right? If you as an individual are not controlling the government and you're not controlling what every woman does, is that you just have your personal discomfort, right? You're just personally disgusted by the situation, the tragedy of the situation, but you're not going out there and like, I'm going to go, kill every single woman who has an abortion, right? You're not actually like bringing justice for babies. You're just upset. So again, what's realistic is you can change minds toward that end and help provide resources and educational resources to help prevent pregnancy in the first place, and also to guide people toward adoption as an option, because of course that'd be much happier ending. So it's one of those things where once you get past the emotions and the quickness to be like, this is so terrible, it's like, okay, yes, it's terrible. Now how do we solve this without creating more violence and more theft in the process, especially with a government that the interventions of that government cause more people and incentivize more people to want to have reckless behavior with the welfareism and the bailouts and the funding of Planned Parenthood and all this other stuff.
And in
right?
public schools, they teach like sex education. They're like, oh yeah, just go ahead and get on birth control if you want to have sex, and just like pushing all these horrible things for a woman's body. If you're a woman, by the way, don't take birth control, okay? Learn to find a man that is not going to come inside you, okay, when you're not ready to have a baby. It's just where it comes from, this massive amounts of abortion is from a sick culture, okay? It's from a culture that has been conditioned to be like, oh, loose sex, just have sex with whoever you want. Oh, just put on a condom and it's okay. You can come inside me then. Like it is literally like encouraging pregnancies to happen out of wedlock almost. Like, and if you ever went to public school like I did, that's where you learn. It's like 5th grade. That's when it starts. Sex ed. Got to get permission from your parents to attend the class. Mm-hmm. And they talk about, they didn't even talk about like a guy having control and just not coming inside you. Like that's not even an option when it comes to birth control. Like it's like the most obvious one. You know what I mean? Like, okay, a monogamous relationship where you're serious, and so the guy respects you enough to not come inside you. And like there's this culture of like, oh, I made her eat a Plan B after I came inside her. It's disgusting. I mean, that is where you have the problem. It's the culture that is toxic that then leads to this symptom of a bunch of abortions, and it's sick. That's what we need to change. So.
Yeah, I mean, it all ties together. A lot of I know if we could just summarize it so simply, a lot of the problems people complain of, even with abortion, ties back to government distortions in the first place.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
Completely destroying.
Like, why is it such a
any
problem?
sense of individual responsibility.
Government promotion of Planned Parenthood and funding of Planned Parenthood. Yeah.
It's like, we got to just think outside the state. And real quick, so Hal here says, a miscarriage is not a result of human behavior that's similar to texting and driving. Yes, it literally is, if we're talking about investigating knowing behavior and risk factors. Remember, texting and driving doesn't mean you immediately kill somebody. But if you do run over someone because you weren't paying attention, you kill them, your texting and driving is a negligence or recklessness factor that goes into manslaughter.
And there's an investigation to make sure that it wasn't premeditated. So they're going to be like, oh, what was going on?
There's an investigation
trying to figure out your motive. Were you really trying to kill that kid?
The same thing applies to miscarriage. Again, there's miscarriage that just happens, and there's no known risk factors, but there's people who have known risk factors. Especially, again, number one in America is obesity. Huge increase in miscarriage, right? You would expect, okay, well, if you're going to have a kid, you need to get down to a healthy BMI, right? To maximize the chance you don't kill your kid. But nobody's sitting there saying, oh, I guess we should have the government force people to become healthy so that there isn't more miscarriages. No, they don't give a crap about the kids who die miscarriage because, 40 to 50% of women in America are clinically obese to some degree, marginally obese or to extreme obese.
Yeah. Also, more women are having kids later,
right?
Like after 35, where your chances of miscarriage are really high. So should that woman be criminalized and an investigation open up if she loses a baby in miscarriage because she's like, some women have a baby at 40,
right? And
then she's like, oh, like should she be criminalized and an investigation open to see if like she was intentionally trying to get rid of the baby or what? Or should she be tried for what'd you say, negligence?
So
right?
It's in criminal law. There's different standards potentially of behavior that's negligent. So the thing I think that it's interesting too, because one of my childhood friends' mom actually had a child appear in the womb later in life when she thought that she couldn't get pregnant. She actually could, and she ended up having a sad miscarriage. But again, it's because someone didn't control where their seed was going to go, and she got pregnant and yet had a miscarriage. And she was way late in life, where it's like very high risk. We're not talking like 30s, we're talking way past that, where you get pregnant, it's very high chance of miscarriage. So again, people in this are willing police state. They were actually consistent to say, well, if you're a woman, you can't try to procreate if you're over 35. You have to be this BMI in order to try to procreate. Like, you think all these restrictions that would reduce the chance of a child dying in miscarriage, but nobody's willing to go there because
I think what they're
not comfortable with it.
I think what you're speaking to, that though, if you do start to criminalize it, then it will justify things like that.
Of course it's going to.
So that's why you have to think through it when you say government should.
Yeah, these aren't slippery slopes. The government keeps growing and growing.
Yeah.
The more powers you give it. This is not
and
a mystery.
they look at existing laws to say, okay, how can I use this to expand my power even more? That's the nature of the incentive structure. That is, once you have power, the incentive is to keep growing your power and to keep your power in place. That's why, like, often, like dictators, they'll try to silence opposition. Right. I mean, as you see now, right? The Disinformation Council that funnily is just suspended for now. It's paused. Right. Like that whole attempt is to control thought, So.
Yeah, I mean, it goes across the spectrum. Like leftists, conservatives, whatever it is, whoever's trying to control the government for their social ends, the tools they enable the government to have are always going to be used for nefarious purposes as the powers shift and tides turn over time. Right. The power is given to what you supposedly like. Whoever's in office now later is used for someone that you don't like, for persecution later. It happens without fail, which is why the only winning move is to get government out of our lives and to look for solutions outside of the state. Think outside the state.
Yeah, and until you can get government totally out of your lives, well, at least have government be focused on actually just crimes with victims, right? And actually enforcing private property rights. That's it. If government is to exist, all it should be doing is enforcing private property rights. That's it.
Right. Yeah. In terms of,
I'm just saying, in a transition, right? In a practical transition, you can't just like get rid of the White House and fire everybody and think like they're not going to rebel and try to like come after you. No, we're talking about like getting a cultural shift, a mindset shift, where people like taxation is theft.
Yes.
Government is violence. Government is a monopoly on violence. When you have that, then people can start being like, you know what? I want the freedom to choose what to do with my property wholly. If you want some of my property, convince me. Okay. And maybe I'll give you some. And I may not, right? It should be my total choice. And then that's the shift that we need. And you'll see a much more beautiful society flourish. You want to have public schools where people are being indoctrinated to have easy flings and relationships and sexual relationships, one night stands. You're not going to have that. So, yeah. So, great questions, though. I know you guys are all passionate about it, so I do appreciate the questions and the super chats. And
don't confuse our enthusiasm and debate and stuff like that for like being upset at you indivially for asking tough questions.
No, it's just
we love tough questions.
The
we just get
ideas themselves.
Yeah, we're
very
ideas,
passionate about the ideas,
and
a lot of the things we're talking about. These are common talking points. So you guys are bringing up common things that are brought up in the discourse today that actually some people were noting we wish that there was more of. We wish there was more of a public, reasonable debate instead of just name calling. Oh, you're a baby murderer. Oh, you're just whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you want women to be slaves.
or oh, this is just a parasite. I have the right to
Mhm.
kill a parasite. Like,
Right.
what we need is these reasonable, specific, nuanced debates where we're clear about definitions and what we're advocating for. So yeah,
Right.
thanks for the conversations, and maybe we'll end it with 4 marshmallows.
maybe we'll see. So they got another question here. It says,
Crush
do you
Satan.
believe in voting? I believe it exists. Do you want to take this one first, or do you want? take this
Okay, well, this is good. I mean, it's just more about like definitions, right? So it just, if you're talking about, I'm sure you're talking about like political voting, like, do you believe in, okay, that's a really interesting way of framing. Are you saying like, are you okay with, are you
gonna pass it
asking,
off to
is
me?
it
'Cause
ethical for
I'm ready
voting?
to answer if you're not going to answer.
No, I just wanted him to clarify what he was saying.
No, yeah, no. I mean, we could just go at it. We could just have it.
Oh, you already know what he's saying? Okay. To me, it's
Sure.
abstract. Like, what do you mean believe
So,
in?
so when it comes to voting, the question, I think you're driving at here is whether or not someone who's an anarcho-capitalist should vote, or whether that's, an effective means to change. So when it comes to voting,
That's awesome.
I'm a voting voluntarist myself. I don't want to be on the registry, but I do support people voting defensively. I take Lysander Spooner's view, which is the idea that you're forced into this battle. Voting is forced upon you. If you don't vote, they're still going to try to take your money. They're still going to come after you.
Yeah.
So the idea here is, can you vote defensively? Absolutely. I just think that people should be realistic about the nature of voting, that single votes, your individual vote is, not likely to count much. It's more how you influence people.
Exactly.
that-
Changing minds is more
Right.
important.
Changing minds is more important. And that the things to be voting on, if you are doing something of that nature, is of course just trying to frustrate government power in whatever way possible, trying to decentralize things, trying to limit state action. Those are the ways to do it. Like
Right.
ballot
Or
initiatives.
block increases,
Right.
Sometimes something would be up and like, hey, should we increase taxation? No. Like
Yes,
voting
right.
no.
Voting against the tax
Basically,
increase,
I don't think it's
voting
unethical.
for a tax limit.
Yeah, I agree with
Right.
you. I wouldn't call it unethical to vote.
No.
And some people do say that. Like some people identifying libertarians will say, oh, if you vote, well, now suddenly you're advocating for the system. I disagree with that.
Yeah.
That's not true, because you're literally forced to fund the system. So if you vote defensively, don't blame the victim in this case. Like, you're the victim in this case, you know?
Right.
So if you vote no on an initiative to grow government, that's not unethical.
That's where I take.
It depends on what you're voting on,
Right.
It's like, okay, if you vote to increase, well, then I'll say, yeah, that particular vote. It's not that the act of voting itself that's unethical. It's what you chose that's unethical in that case,
Right.
So.
And I definitely do take a different view from other voluntarists who are like, if you vote, then you're supporting the system and giving validity to it. And to me, while I understand the sentiment of being like, I don't want to participate, and I personally do that in action, I also don't think that's very realistic to suggest that the government's just going to magically go away just because you didn't vote. I mean, they don't really give a crap one way or the other if 99% of people don't vote. You know what I mean? If 1% of people vote, they're just be like, oh, see, okay, that was enough. So it doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
the key is just like trying to do whatever you can to signal against what they're doing.
Mhm.
For most people, voting, on most things is not going to do much of anything. And if you watch the movie 2K Donkeys, that film, that 2K
Oh no,
Donkeys.
2,000 Mules.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to not say the words so it
Oh.
get censored, but now that we're being taken off the air,
Whoops, sorry.
I'm gonna just go ahead and say
That
it.
was the funniest moment. I
Yeah.
was like, I thought you were saying it wrong.
Yeah. No, I know what I was doing.
That's hilarious. That's like if you're like, it's the Kung Flu, and I'm like, no.
No.
Did you know it's called C19?
Yeah, exactly. About that.
That's weird.
So, well, if you saw that, you have a good idea.
Welcome to our relationship. Nah,
Right. Lots of confusion. Defining terms. We've actually spent half a relationship defining terms,
it's so important.
and then the other half is eating noodles. But
I love Pho.
yeah,
Okay, anyway.
if you saw that film, you have a small glimpse into how corrupt
the voting system is. Yeah.
Electoral politics is and how corrupt it's become. And
That was
it's
federal
been
level
like this,
though,
but it's
right?
actually,
Specifically,
it
can even go
going
to
across,
state level too, like
Yes.
within a single
It
state, like
depends-
governorship, like Florida.
Right. It depends on how
example.
desperate certain people are and how far they're willing to try to
and
manipulate.
which of their friends are in power. It's like,
Yeah.
is your friend an election, board of election person? Whatever.
So
Whatever it's
it just depends. But it ain't easy. Let's put it that way. It ain't easy to get your vote to count, to say the least.
All right. Well, hopefully it answered your question. Do we believe in voting? I think that's what you meant. Like, do you think it's unethical to vote or whatever? Basically, I'm not putting all my eggs in the basket of voting. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm not going to shame our fellow victims of the state, fellow tax cattle for trying to vote, especially. I only shame them if they're literally voting to grow the state. Like that's when I'll shame them. But the nature of voting in and of itself, the action of voting of itself is not like tied to morality in the case when you are literally forced to be part of the system,
Right.
So really it just comes down to, are you voting to increase coercion and growing the size and power of the state? Well, then I would think that's unethical and you should not.
And also,
But if
you
you're
want
voting to
to
stop or block or decrease the size of the state and free the market or lower taxation, great, that's awesome. And you will definitely have a bigger impact on local voting, because then your single count is, of course, in a smaller pool. So yeah, it'll just have a bigger impact. And beyond that, I like your point of single vote, also recognizing don't think like, okay, I'm just gonna not talk to anybody and just vote once a year. Like, don't have a delusion that that's somehow potentially making a huge difference. What will make a bigger one is, you yourself, but you also convince others who are voting how to vote. Like, if that's your focus, if your focus is politics, well, focus on trying to change minds. And ultimately, really, the theme of trying to change minds, no matter what you're doing, whether it's politics, whether it's making comics, which, by the way, if you want to see us stuff for marshmallows and try to say Chubby Bunny, we will close the stream that way. So any contributions of 20 or more, maybe get a cosplay perk, maybe get a trade paperback, the Origins 1 through 6. Again, that's the one I want. Go check it out. There's a lot of other cool perks too. If you have a business, you can advertise. So check that out. Maybe we'll close the stream with if we get another 20 contributions.
Yeah, I just sent that out.
But yeah, so ultimately, I think changing minds is really the key here. And it reminds me of when the first time I met Ron Paul, which was last year, and I looked just like that. I was like, because I was so starstruck, and I was just giggling with my shoulders up next to him. But I loved his speech to the people at the Young Americans for Liberty org. Basically, it's an org where they're more focused on political action, really trying to get people to change minds by knocking on doors and promoting liberty in politics. So he said to these people, right, who are really focused on political action, he said, hey, I want you to remember that at the end of the day, always prioritize number one, your principles. Always prioritize changing minds and never compromise your principles. Everything else will fall into place as it should. And that should always be the focus to promote principled liberty. So I just love that message. And, Ron Paul was a huge creator. He made so many people anarchists and voluntarists, from him just running for Republican, for the Republican Party as president. He changed so many minds just with his diehard focus on principles. It's a beautiful thing. So if you can take that as an example, just realize that's how we get there, is just changing minds. And that's how we got here today. You know how the fact that most people won't coerce you. Most people think it's wrong to steal or to rape. You have to remember, in human history, rape, pedophilia, molestation, murder, that stuff was total human sacrifice. That stuff was just oh, it's fine. The world back then used to be so insane, and immoral. So already so many minds have changed. Philosophy books have been pushed and stuff like that. The minds can change. They have changed, and we're actually in a much better world today. and much better positioned, especially with the internet and ability of mass communication technology, to actually connect with others and spread ideas of liberty even further. So I hope you find solace in that, and just remember, like, this time in our life, it's unique. You know, we have a unique chance, and we're the current holders of the present reality. And it's, in my opinion, up to us, if you know the truth about liberty, to promote it in whatever means you can. So whether it's politics, whatever, don't feel ashamed. Like, I'm all for specialization, especially as a capitalist. I love specialization, like this idea that we can trade and then thus we can share in our goods and services, and we can each specialize. Like, that's a beautiful thing. So if you're good at public speaking, do that. If you're good at drawing, if you're good at making music, if you're good at programming, if whatever, you're handy, you're crafty, you're construction, you're a farmer, right? You're really good with animals, like all those things. Like, there really should be no shame when it comes to, all of us trying to push for liberty and change minds. So.
I just want to add on to that, just with the voting thing. If you're going from a literalist description of what someone does when they vote, because again, I think it's very important to not get lost in the sophistry of abstraction. So the act of voting is just you scribbling on like a piece of paper or touching a computer screen. So the literal empirical reality of what you're physically doing, you're not violating anybody's property rights. You're not threatening anybody by doing that in and of itself, like that actual action. The actual force, of course, is being carried out by enforcers, police, military, and is being orchestrated by politicians, telling people what to do, who are the enforcers. So it's important to just remember that, the blame is by and large, in terms of the specifics of action, on the political class of persons and their enforcement body, the people who just follow orders for a paycheck.
Right.
But obviously,
those are the ones who are ultimately morally culpable, the ones actually carrying out the
ones
orders,
who do
right?
the violence.
They're the actual
are the most
initiators.
Yeah. Right. So, but the key there is, again, just whatever you do, make sure it's something that's involving trying to get
I'm not saying go be a cop. Like, no, start a private security firm. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
think outside the state,
don't
work
grow
outside the state, try to frustrate the state, try to decentralize the state, do everything you can to, filibuster, or as a Christian said.
Good night. I watch it. Thank you for the super sticker.
Right.
Appreciate that.
So you just want to do whatever you can to try to curtail it. Again, the political arena is very tough. I don't like it. I don't like what the people it attracts, and the way people act in that arena makes me, not really interested in that typically.
Yeah, just notice it tends to attract people who weren't
people.
Successful in the private market. I'm just saying, like, it's someone who fully dedicates their whole time to politics. Like, either they're retired and they're good, or like that's the best they think that they can do. But anyway, that's just a generalization. I'm still not shaving it. I'm just saying that's just part of what you're dealing with when you go there. Just don't be surprised if it's very toxic and cutting and corrupt. Like, that's just the nature of people trying to acquire power, right? So
power acquisition
incentives. Just be careful.
Bring out the worst kinds of people and the worst in people, I would say, yes, in terms of behavior. So
power corrupts, right? That old saying. Do you know where it comes from? Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts indefinitely. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. I don't personally agree with that concept for reasons that I can get into or not get into. But I think that
not get into.
Yeah, well, I don't think power has to be first defined, because always got to define your terms. But if we're talking here in political power, that would be more narrow. Like, power in of itself, like economic power is not the same as political power. Like, you could have power and influence because a lot of people, you have a very successful company, people look up to you.
No. That's influence. I mean, like, power, like you basically own people. You have the power to determine like what happens with that person's life and property. That's having that power over others. So that's what I mean. That I think that's what is being said when they say, like,
I don't know. That's a good question. The whole concept of what people call power, I think, is one of those debated things that people, when they debate the idea, they're not really sharing the same meaning.
Okay, well, that's why I define mine.
Yeah, and I would define it as if power here in the political realm, it's the idea that someone is at the seat of government and has executive authority or has the ability to make decisions.
Right, absolute power. exactly. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what absolute power is though.
Like you have absolute power over somebody. You are the actual dictator of that person's life and property.
How would that look
You
like?
call it the state, but
So if it's absolute, what does that mean though? What is it in terms of actions and actors specifics?
like you use violent. You have enough force and ability to enact force and crush anyone who like literally murder or kill or take the stuff of anyone who disagrees with you. So that would be
So someone can't meaningfully resist or stop your action, you're saying?
right. Like this idea, just like the government today. I mean, you can try, but you can try to resist taxation. You saw what happened to people like Irwin Schiff or Wesley Snipes, like these people that have lots of money. Money is not going to save you when it comes to some group of people that have ultimate quote power over you. Like this
I guess so.
to
It depends.
take your life, imprison you, and you can't do anything about it. That's what's corrupting, is when you're somebody who actually gets into that seat of power, just like Kim Jong-un. He had quote absolute power over the people of Korea. Like he literally murdered people and their families. That's what I'm talking about. Like people in that position of power, it corrupts them. And it makes it so that they're incentivized to stay in control and power. So I think that's what that term is just saying. Yeah. This idea of like, to me, I thought it was like a very anarchist term of just recognizing the nature of giving somebody a monopoly on violence. So
right. I just don't associate the word power with just being state power. I think that what you're talking about to me is state power. And I think statism is a unique psychology that involves like a whole different kind of like apparatus. So we're talking about the nature of who is setting the ideas and for action and who's following that and under what pretenses. So I personally would probably take a more narrow view on power there than you, that if we're talking about power, we're really saying state power corrupts. And I think that has a lot more empirical evidence behind it, looking through the history of
now that we have the definitions. I think that just general statement is what it's speaking to, is when you get a hold of state power, right? Quote, you call it absolute power, you call it monopoly on violence. Okay.
Right.
Yes, you do. It does corrupt you because now you have the incentive to stay a hold of your power.
So is Ron Paul corrupted?
Ron Paul?
Yeah, he held power in Congress for 30 years.
Not much power. He was like the no vote, but did he change much? I don't think so. For 40 years, he even said like, he's like, yeah, I was in Congress for 40 years, but I really didn't get much. He wasn't the president who wrote executive orders. Like,
so you're saying if he had like voted on more bills that like went through, then he would become corrupt?
No, I'm not saying that. If he himself voted, that's not saying he himself now has ultimate power. He's not a dictator there. It's his power is shared against other people and is decentralized.
So you're saying that politicians then don't have power because, according to you, it's divided among 535 members of Congress and into legislatures, so therefore they don't have power.
I mean,
I'm just going to challenge you because I really like challenging on this one.
I guess the president might have like more power.
President is the executive, so they have some zones of
especially now
discretion.
With the president of constantly doing executive orders.
Right, an executive order may allow them to direct people who are already under their specific field of decision rights.
But you can already see that in the system of America, you already don't have this true centralization of one power in one single person. I mean, that's why political philosophy has evolved throughout history to try and like disperse power more and more. Like that's how you got from this idea of, okay, we need a dictator and a monarchy who has absolute rule and is the sayer of all laws, right? Like in England, in the past, to, okay, this idea of like, well, we got to decentralize the power somehow, have more quote checks and balances. It's people's attempts throughout history noticing that sort of what happens when one person has
absolute power,
ultimate power, absolute power, whatever. Okay, hopefully you now understand my definition.
I think that makes more sense because
it's just how people have evolved. Like they are basically seeing the nature of what happens when one person has ultimate power over everybody, and so their attempt to try and like get rid of that, and they're still not to the point of like, okay, how do we just have, voluntarism? Like they're still stuck in the mindset of some sort of central authority. They're like, okay, the way we try to resolve it is like maybe like, you have a one person from each, geographical area, and they like represent like, it's just an attempt to try and decentralize more, basically. And what we're talking about is let's keep on decentralizing. Democracy is not the answer. Democracy failed. Majority voting against a minority can be tyrannical too. So it's about respecting property rights all the way down to the individual and having your power based on your own body, your ownership of your own body, and your ownership of the property that you justly acquire. And that's it. So, and I agree with you. I wouldn't include economic power. I wouldn't call that absolute power. That's, you may have power and stuff like that, but if people's other property rights are respected, you can't override theirs. Well, you don't actually have absolute power over everybody. It's just, it's like, for example, it's not really a true monopoly. You can't have a true monopoly, even if you're like you make so much money or whatever, and you're just like, oh, the top competitor. You don't have a true monopoly like the government does on violence, because at any point, someone else with their own property can compete against you because you're not using violence to stop them from competing against you.
Yeah, I think that like the way you encapsulated that makes a lot more sense, because you're doing it on a sliding scale, which I think to talk about the American experiment and the concept of dividing up power from an absolute monarch, that is right. I think the framing that you described in action, but I think rooting it to like the actual metaphysical aspect of it, of what's going on, is that you're right. Violating consent. Like your power is about being able to do things against the consent of others without right. Meaningful resistance.
Exactly.
They cannot. So I think power in that sense means that you have the ability to either yourself or through commanding others or paying off others, do things to other people against their consent, and they can't meaningfully resist you. And of course, the government is one of the most ultimate forms of this, because they're able to steal from others at large and then fund a much bigger enforcement apparatus than any private mafia could ever hope to or dream to amass. And this power then in terms of forcing people to have things done to them against their consent, it can be divided up across people, in a political realm sense, like the ability to do that. Okay, it can't be done just by one person. It gets done through consensus. Right. But I think that's really what we're tying to, is that power here is the ability to force people to have things done to them against their consent, and they can't meaningfully resist it.
Right. And the idea that absolute power corrupts absolutely is trying to say, the more and more you give, somebody has the ability to, I like how you clarified that, like has the ability to control other people's body and property without any resistance or without really any challenge. They may meet resistance, but they know, like, I can just have this guy killed. I can just have him put in prison. Doesn't matter. Like, they will not have the incentive to try and respect others. They will have the incentive to actually expand their wealth, expand their property, expand their control, and also keep it. I mean, like, as you see with like the CCP in China, as you see with the regime in North Korea, what do these people do when there's any resistance to their power? When there's people who are like, look, I just want to like watch a movie from the West. Like, they're not even allowed, right? They like literally have to like put a blanket over their head. Yummy Park talks about this, and like secretly watch. They don't really have sovereignty. They're put in a class system. And if they want to go against it, literally they get murdered, and all of their relatives, cousins, second cousins, just murdered. Okay. And that is where those people are absolutely corrupted, because they don't care. They're like, I don't care who I murder if it means, they have this whole the ends justifies the means mentality. So if the ends is I stay in power, they may have a delusion like, I'm the right to rule. Only I can control North Korea. And without me, just like the CCP in China, without us, China would just be poor. Like, these ridiculous like assertions, which is just not true at all. That's what they'll believe, and then they'll justify any means. So whether they murder somebody, murder children, rape people, they don't care. And that's more what it's speaking to, is helping people to see that And that I should look at. I'm going to look that up next. Like, where did that come from? That phrase, but it's like this, you know, kind of this wisdom trying to be passed on throughout the ages, throughout the generations, of trying to like warn future generations, like, look, stop, stop giving people ultimate power over you. We all need to have our sovereignty respected. Okay, we are all individual human beings, just like children aren't property of their parents. It's more of a trust relationship there between parent and child. So nobody should be owned. Like, slavery should not be a thing, even though slavery actually has gotten worse in the past several years in the Middle East, for example, and yeah, and I think in Africa too. But anyway, it's just like trying to you know, focus on ultimately rights of individuals and not letting anyone override what rights you should have. So, yeah.
Well, on that note, we did just get another backer.
Oh, we did.
So I'm about to stuff our
Okay.
mouths.
Can you see what perk it is or no?
Nope.
Oh, you don't want to do that.
No,
Okay.
I do not want to do that.
Okay.
So
I wonder if it's a cosplay.
who knows? We'll find out later. But in the meantime, we're gonna stuff our faces.
4?
That's 4 times.
3 was hard.
You're gonna have to really. Like,
All right,
stuff
we're
yourself.
gonna end the stream
See,
with this.
Hold on, look over there. So
Oh, God.
get a real close up in this one.
We're gonna end the stream with this. I want to say, wow, it's been like 3 hours. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's been a good 3 hours.
Thanks for hanging out. Hope it's been really substantive and enjoyable. I'm gonna try to say chubby bunny. Okay.
I can't.
All right, please, for the love of God, we need to leave because I already
I can't do
committed
another
through
one.
contract, through voluntary contract, that I'll put like 5 marshmallows. So we got to drop before anyone.
I think one more and I'd be like, it'd be my throat. It'd be my throat.
I would have to like really crush it with my hand to like sneak, 6.
Wow.
It's the
I
dust.
got dust bunny, dust marshmallow.
Okay, I'm like scared to refresh it, but I'm gonna refresh. Are we good? Okay, we're good. We're good, guys.
We're good. We're good.
Okay.
But real quick. Crush states that are you familiar with
Oh,
ukcom.org? No, I'm not.
Mm-mm.
Okay. And I don't know, someone else here is saying, what about the Federal Reserve? Just real quick. Yeah, obviously, central banking is a huge part of global control in terms of funding both sides of wars. Of course, central banking can't exactly be forced on people without government. Government's needed to legitimize the imposition of the currency through taxes, right?
Oh, and
Because
every
it
government
mandates
controls the
acceptance of it.
currency because they know.
Right. So central bank is of course you could say the root in terms of like a historical root, but without government, central banking ain't crap because they need a mechanism to force the acceptance. Right. Exactly.
The only way it could be a central bank is if the literal state of monopoly and violence makes it so and grants it a monopoly.
Taxes in those fiat notes and those Federal Reserve debt notes. So again, free market and money. Goodbye, central banking power. They can try to manipulate things, of course, still, but they don't have that whole.
Thank you,
everybody has
Ghosted.
to, use their system. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out late with us. And I was just surprised. We did so many different topics. It kind of like I was not expecting us to do all these different things.
True. It's like
this was
in 3 hours, you like put a timestamp. Like at 20 minutes, we talk. First 20 minutes was.
I thought we were just gonna talk about gun
debunking
stuff.
gun statistics.
Right.
Yeah.
And we ended up talking about like
every time for gun safety.
Topics.
Don't trust them.
But that's good because here's the thing for next time. Again, everybody asking great questions.
Travis.
Thanks for asking good questions. I mean, it actually kept things interesting going, through all different types of philosophical things, historical things. So
it was great. It wasn't like, hey,
Yeah.
What's the color of your toes? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it was like meaningful questions that people are regularly talking about in the discourse. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
And thanks for everybody who's
Crush Satan. I hope we can.
Campaign and all the super chat. Yes, thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, really, thank you. It was really enjoyable to get meaningfully intriguing questions and good questions that actually help people understand the philosophy.
Also, it was fun to do the Chubby Bunny challenge.
Yeah, I mean, that was the driest Chubby Bunny challenge I ever had. But
that was the first.
We got these kosher marshmallows. They're a little dry, but it's whatever.
Okay.
All right. I'll take that. You people are brilliant. No, I mean, I'll accept the compliment. but I would say hard work and a lot of study and a lot of challenging and debating. If you want to,
Because they're brilliant people, they're very sophisticated. They use their brilliance
Right.
to manipulate and
Yeah.
deceive. So that's why personally, I appreciate that comment, but just I try not to focus on I don't like the labels of stupid or smart when it comes to talking to people, because that really has nothing to do with their ethics or anything. That's just a side tangent.
right. Yeah, you can
Yes,
see
they are kosher.
they're kosher. So basically,
Does
just
that say?
I don't even know. Let me see here. There's
Says Gwimave?
Yeah, I'm trying to get okay there it is. So you can see kosher. So if you want to know why, it's because I don't really like to eat pig product normally, just especially for health reasons. So it used fish based gelatin instead of pig gelatin, because pig gelatin just doesn't sit well with me. It's not good for you either. Fish is a little bit better. Again, they're not healthy marshmallows. I mean, they got corn syrup in it, not high fructose. Corn, but it's got corn syrup. It's not going to help your health.
Yeah.
But they do taste really good.
Okay, we got to refresh now again.
What do we gotta
and just
refresh?
hope that
Refresh over
nobody.
time?
Okay, cool. Nobody
Okay, all right,
supported.
all right. Nobody supported. No, wait. Well, no, cool. I want.
Well, I
I'd
mean,
take
I
one
just
more.
didn't
All
want to do 5 marshmallows.
right.
That's just a little. That's
Yeah.
a little much.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank
See
you.
y'all
Thank you
later.
so much
Thanks
for hanging.
Thanks for your support. And yeah, we're at 101% on the campaign. So thank you. Seriously, we're gonna make this super awesome. We're gonna do some more streams too. Like we just did tonight, where we're talking about a bunch of
Yeah,
stuff.
because we have 34 days, so you'll see some
Yeah.
more streams.
Yeah,
from
we're
us,
gonna
so.
answer more tough questions, and I'm gonna debate you more on different things. Hold you accountable.
It's fun. I enjoy it, and it led to a better discourse. So.